Tickets to Hale Center Theater. Say thanks to your teacher today at kslnewsradio.com/teacher from Cypress Credit Union and KSL News Radio.
8:59, time for a check of traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. Auto loan rates as low as 4.74% APR. Let's go back to Jason Jones.
And traffic is heavier northbound I-15 from the I-80 interchange into downtown Salt Lake City. It lightens up once you get past about 13th South. That's when it's going to lighten up again. No accident there, just congestion happening as more cars are making their way into downtown Salt Lake City. That's the only problem we've got on I-15. All the delays we had over on the west side have all cleared out as well. So no real trouble there. Down in Utah County, it's smooth sailing up to the point of the mountain on I-15. 2100 North, though, remains fairly congested. Cormac?
Just some light delays on southbound I-15 at the north interchange down toward Warm Springs Road. Those should ease out as the morning continues. Eastbound I-80, that right lane still a little full approaching US 40, but it is northbound US 40 that is the heaviest traffic right now, and that's from about almost all the way back to SR 248 all the way up to the I-80 interchange. From Beethoven's Ninth to icons like Idina Menzel, summer sounds better under the stars. Plan your visit today at DeerValleyMusicFestival.org. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll get up to 81 degrees today with a few clouds, 87 tomorrow, 89 on Thursday. Friday, we're back in the low 90s, 91 for July 4th. Right now, it's mostly cloudy and 63 degrees downtown.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
9 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, the Supreme Court is upholding birthright citizenship, rejecting President Donald Trump's executive order. The justices relied on a long-settled understanding of the 14th Amendment adopted after the Civil War. The outcome is another major defeat at the High Court for President Trump, who saw his global tariffs blocked in February. Local stories we're following. Officials now believe the Cottonwood fire burning east of Beaver has burned down about 150 buildings. That includes homes, cabins, sheds, outbuildings, and RVs. Police today are also allowing some to go up the mountain and check on their properties for the first time since the fire started last week. It's burned just under 94,000 acres and is now 4% contained. Monsoon rains could help turn the tide for the active wildfire season we're in right now, but it could still take weeks for firefighters to fully get a handle on our fires. KSL News Radio's Becky Bruce reports.
I asked KSL meteorologist Kevin Eubank if we're expecting a wetter than usual monsoon season, arriving earlier than usual, both trends it's on track to do. Won't that help firefighters make some progress against these massive wildfires? The answer is that it helps, but with the size of these fires, 1 or 2 storms won't be nearly enough. We need a lot more. And we've got to return to drier, hotter weather this weekend.
As for the drought, Kevin says it usually takes about as long to get out of a drought as it does to get into one. Your money at this moment, the Dow is up 86 points at this hour. We're at 52,269. Coming up, it looks like we'll be on the cool side today in the 80s. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:02. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, it's a developing story. It's not necessarily breaking because we broke it on the morning show, but the future of birthright citizenship has now been decided by the United States Supreme Court.
For now.
This morning, the court chose to uphold birthright citizenship. It's been the law for more than 150 years. I think it's going to stand for another 150.
This means the president's executive order limiting birthright citizenship will not stand.
And that was actually the final opinion. So this court's term has now come to an end. It was the one we were waiting for. It was the big one. And, of course, the Supreme Court didn't surprise us by not holding it until the very last one.
Right. They do like to do that. So, look, the final Supreme Court decisions today, we're going to have special in-depth coverage on our show today on Inside Sources.
So let's begin that discussion on the constitutionality of the decision on birthright to citizenship. Joining us now is Dr. Matthew Brogdon, a senior director of the Center for Constitutional Studies at Utah Valley University. My worst class in law school was constitutional law, so I'm glad we have somebody that understands it better than me. Matthew, thanks for joining us this morning.
I'm glad to be here, Greg.
Hey, this is maybe getting in the weeds a little bit, but the Fox News is calling it a 5-4 decision. CNN is calling it 6-3. The Associated Press is calling it 5-4. It doesn't matter the number, but there's a little bit of confusion over which way one of the justices came out on this.
Yeah, I think Justice Kavanaugh's decision is a bit of an outlier. He wrote by himself to concur in the judgment of the court, so he agrees that the executive order is unlawful, and that the current way of determining birthright citizenship, which is that you are born on American soil with almost no qualifications, will remain the law of the land. But he wants to base that on a statute, not on the 14th Amendment. Justice Kavanaugh believes that Congress could add additional exceptions to birthright citizenship if they wished, but that the president can't do that. Congress has adopted statutes in the middle of the 20th century that he says clearly adopted the absolute birthright citizenship standard.
Oh, interesting.
So it's interesting to me. I don't see an initial reaction from the president yet, but earlier today he reposted an article about legislation that could basically undo the 14th Amendment. But my understanding is you actually cannot do that.
Well, according to 5 justices, this is where the 5-4 majority comes in. The 14th Amendment establishes a definition of citizenship that can't be altered. And what the court has done is essentially recognize that there are a handful of very narrow exceptions to who counts as being subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, which is the language that the 14th Amendment uses. It says that those who are born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So the court has said that that really only leaves outside a few categories. People born to folks with invading armies, folks born on foreign ships who are docked in American ports, and the children of ambassadors who are regarded as having diplomatic immunity. And at one time, this also included the children of members of Indian tribes because they were regarded as semi-sovereign nations. That relationship has changed since then, so that exception is not quite the same. But the court has fixed those, has claimed that the 14th Amendment fixes those exceptions sort of in constitutional stone and can't be altered even by Congress.
Matthew, can you take our listeners back to the enactment of the 14th Amendment and what was going on in the country, and then maybe bring it to the fore and talk about what the executive order was attempting to do?
Sure, absolutely.
Because I think the history is important, and you may understand that far better than most of us.
It is extraordinarily important. The straightforward narrative that the court gives is that Congress was overturning the decision that the Supreme Court had made in Dred Scott versus Sandford. In Dred Scott versus Sandford, the Supreme Court had said that the children of those brought here as slaves could not become U.S. citizens, that there were a certain category of people that for all time were essentially, a subset of persons who could not become U.S. citizens. And Congress very straightforwardly overturned that, not first through a constitutional amendment, but first in a civil rights law. In 1866, Congress passed the first Civil Rights Act, and that act said that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to no foreign power were citizens of the United States in the state wherein they reside. The same year, Congress crafted and proposed a constitutional amendment, the 14th Amendment, which would be ratified 2 years later. And that, of course, differed only insofar as it said that all persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. So we had a move from subject to no foreign power, which presumably would be people who were foreign citizens and remained subject to a foreign government while they were visiting the United States. And the 14th Amendment changed that language to say, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, that is, any person subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. So Congress was attempting to make very clear that all persons, even if they were born in slavery, because they were born in the United States, were citizens of the United States, and interestingly, of their state too. The 14th Amendment took away the option for states to create a different definition of citizenship. In other words, we created a uniform national definition of what it was to be a citizen, both of the United States and of a state. And we fixed that in the Constitution. So that was a very clear response, mainly to slavery. The principal exception to that at the time was the status of Indian tribes. It still was not the case that people born to Indian tribes, and the way the Constitution describes this is Indians not taxed. In other words, Native Americans who lived on reservations and were not subject to taxation by the states or the United States were sort of left outside of this, but anyone else would be inside the definition. That left a question about just where the exceptions lie, and there was a great deal of consensus about this issue of diplomatic immunity, the issue of invading armies, but whether there might be other exceptions, whether there might be other people who are not fully subject to the jurisdiction of the United States, such as visiting persons or people who reside illegally in the United States, remained an open question. Of course, that's complicated by the fact that we did not have strict immigration laws at the time. We did have laws that prevented citizenship, for example, for persons of Chinese descent in the late 19th century. But we did not have strict immigration laws. The federal government did not attempt, by and large, to prevent the immigration of people to the United States. That was a 20th century endeavor. So the question's arisen, has that changed the situation? The fact that now we do prevent the travel of people, even temporarily, to the United States, should that change the legal situation or the legal application of the 14th Amendment's rule?
I have a lot more questions. Do you mind sticking around?
Yeah, please.
We'll be back in just a few minutes.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
Well, we have the decision we've been waiting for a long time, so we're going to continue our conversation this hour on the developing news out of the United States Supreme Court this morning, where the court upheld the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship.
And there has already been a lot of response, including our own Senator Mike Lee, who, along with some other Republicans, are now calling for a new constitutional amendment to amend the 14th Amendment.
And unfortunately, we're also seeing that people are calling for the Supreme Court to be removed, to be abolished, for the members to hang, that the country has been destroyed, that they've sold us down the river. In fact, I saw one calling for civil war. So let's be clear, that's not okay.
Yeah, and it's a definition of the 14th Amendment, which has been on the books for 150 years, and it's not ambiguous, and I don't know why we even got to this point. But let's bring back our Dr. Matthew Brogdon. He's the Senior Director of the Center for Constitutional Studies at Utah Valley University. Thanks for being patient and staying with us, Matthew. Can you talk to us about the executive order and how we got here today after 150 years, why we're discussing this now?
Well, President Trump was of the opinion, based on some recent scholarship, that the 14th Amendment does not require the country to confer citizenship on people who are not actually domiciled here. So domicile is a bit of a term of art in the law. It basically means that make the United States their home. So you can identify a number of examples of this. Birther tourism, right? Someone who travels to the United States simply to give birth, to confer citizenship on their child, and then returns home. And the argument of scholars and of the administration in this case was that the 14th Amendment did not envision a situation like that. That set of circumstances was outside the set of circumstances contemplated by the framers of the 14th Amendment. They were concerned with ensuring that people who called the United States home, who made their home here, could be assured that their children would be citizens. And you see this in the principal dissents in the case as well, a concern with not giving, as Justice Alito says, he said, before saddling the nation with a medieval rule, we had better be certain the Constitution requires it. So that reference to medieval rules is the idea that you are subject to a country's authority simply because you're there. There was a medieval rule of jus soli, the fact that because you were on the soil, you were a subject of whoever ruled that place. And the contention of dissenters here is that instead Americans adopted a different understanding of citizenship. You had to choose to make a place your home before you were saddled with allegiance, is the word that is used, allegiance to the government of that place. So temporary visitors, even folks who enter a country illegally, perhaps, might not fall within that definition. So there's a quite serious intellectual debate and quite a serious historical dispute between the majority of the court and the dissenters in the case. Dissenters argue that, in fact, the United States and states routinely denied citizenship to people who were merely visiting before the 14th Amendment, while the majority of the court thinks that there was a steady practice in the United States of attributing citizenship to anyone who was born here, as long as they weren't a slave or weren't a Native American living on a reservation.
So, Dr. Brogdon, one of the things we've already seen is Utah Senator Mike Lee calling for a constitutional amendment, and U.S. House Speaker Mike Johnson said he, quote, ugh, when he heard the ruling. And then he said, I'm very disappointed in that outcome. You can amend the Constitution to fix that. Could you talk to us briefly about the process to amend the Constitution? Because it's a pretty high bar.
Well, there are two processes to do it, though we've only ever used one. The principal means of doing it, and the one we've always utilized, is that Congress has to pass a constitutional amendment by a 2/3 vote in both houses. So the same language has to pass both houses of Congress by a supermajority. And then state legislatures need to ratify that language. And that requires 3/4 of all state legislatures. That's presently 38. So you need 38 states to go along. We've proposed a lot of constitutional amendments in our history, most of which did not get ratified. So it is a high bar. It's difficult. It's obviously not impossible because we have done it 26 times. So it's not an impossible bar to clear.
So I'm wondering, I personally am a little concerned that the vote was so close. Can we feel comfortable that this will stay for at least a couple of years? Is this something that is going to, what are we looking at here? Because it was pretty close.
Well, the enforcement of the 14th Amendment and other civil rights provisions has always depended to a degree on congressional action. Effective civil rights enforcement has rarely taken place solely through judicial action. So unless there's support in Congress and they're willing to enshrine things in law, rarely do those provisions of the Constitution really get vigorous enforcement. And you can see that in the language of the 14th Amendment itself. Its very last provision, Section 5, is that Congress shall have power to enforce the provisions of this amendment by appropriate legislation. And so Congress clearly has some discretion about the way they carry an amendment into effect. I'll just give one example here, and Justice Alito, Justice Kavanaugh put a lot of weight on this. It's the fact that actually federal law confers citizenship on many people whom the 14th Amendment does not encompass. So, for example, people born to U.S. citizens abroad are not born or naturalized in the United States. They have to be, that citizenship has to be conferred on them. They have to be naturalized by a congressional enactment. So there are actually many cases where people do rely for their citizenship on federal law. So it sometimes makes us uncomfortable. We want to think that all of our rights are sort of fixed in stone and that courts will vindicate them. But the fact of the matter is we live in a complex system, and unless the courts have the support of the political branches, they often struggle to sort of man the barricade by themselves. In fact, the court has sometimes gotten out over its skis trying to establish rights for which there's not much political support and often has to walk that back. So I think it's significant that we should work. If you want a definition of citizenship to be stable and you want it to be durable, then you do need congressional enactment. And it's worth noting that the laws that are in place and that were put in place in the middle of the 20th century did adopt very broad definitions. They employed the language of the 14th Amendment itself, and that language in turn was interpreted by a late 19th century decision called Wong Kim Ark. So there's actually a 130-year-old decision that has given us the set of exceptions to citizenship that the court currently accepts, that even the majority accepts. And Congress sort of wrote that into law. There's really no reason Congress can't alter some of those exceptions to fit changing circumstances. There was no such thing as birth tourism in the 19th century, and that is a serious concern. Should wealthy foreigners be able to sort of catch a flight, come here, have children, confer U.S. citizenship on them, and return? Justice Kavanaugh points out a number of situations that would seem to be inequitable, even according to this rule. That is, if people patiently wait and apply for entry to the country, and their children are disqualified from citizenship because their children are born before they enter the country, but people who nonetheless immigrate in violation of the laws gain citizenship for their children, that would seem to advantage people who are acting unlawfully over those who are acting lawfully and patiently under the laws. So I think there are some serious concerns in those decisions. And I think if you want to see a durable definition of citizenship, this definition endure that we've had for a long time, you need to convince Congress to keep it, because there is some substantial power in Congress to alter it. Though there are 5 votes saying Congress can't. So it is a razor-thin margin here. This rests on Chief Justice Roberts and Justice Barrett joining Justices Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson in holding that. But there are 4 votes saying Congress has the option.
Interesting.
Let me ask another question, if I could, Matthew. A lot of people have been saying and writing us this morning, well, how can the Supreme Court change the Constitution? Sure. And so had the minority here got one more vote, by what theory would they have upheld the executive order? Would it have been, well, the 14th Amendment may say this, but it really means this? Because they're not going to change the language of the 14th Amendment. I'm just wondering, hypothetically, what would have happened?
No, their contention is that the 14th Amendment means something other than what the Supreme Court said it meant in the 1890s, Mon Kimar. And so the president is articulating a more faithful reading of the 14th Amendment. There is also a real question about statutory construction. When Congress passed our immigration acts in the middle of the 20th century, they simply wrote the language of the 14th Amendment into law. They did not actually define any of these exceptions. Congress just used the language of the amendment. So there's an argument that whatever the amendment means, that's what the Immigration and Naturalization Acts mean. And if that's the case, then you have to go back and see what the amendment meant. And Congress is simply putting the principle from the amendment into law. So you have to settle the question what the 14th Amendment means. And if, in fact, there is no such thing as illegal immigration for the most part when the 14th Amendment is written. We did not have strict immigration laws. So this is not a question of changing the Constitution, but instead trying to adapt the Constitution to changing circumstances. That is, the rule remains fixed that the Constitution enacts, but it has to be applied to a changing set of circumstances. The analogy here is the Fourth Amendment. There weren't cars in 1789 when the Fourth Amendment was ratified, nor was there electronic communication or email. But we have to try to take the rule that is established by the Fourth Amendment, the principles there, and apply them to those changing circumstances. We can't just throw up our hands and say, well, the Constitution didn't envision this new circumstance, therefore the Constitution has nothing to say about it.
Well said.
So that's really a quite serious dispute that the court is trying to navigate.
Wonderful. That was great. That was Dr. Matthew Brogdon, Senior Director of the Center for Constitutional Studies at Utah Valley University. So enlightening and so educating. That was a lot of fun. Next up on Inside Sources, a couple more Supreme Court decisions we're going to talk about. We'll get an immigration attorney's perspective on today's ruling on birthright citizenship as well, coming up next.
9:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump and his efforts to rescind birthright citizenship. That's the clause in the Constitution that states that people born in the U.S. are U.S. citizens. More from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
A major rebuke to President Trump, who had pushed for this executive order to take effect. It has come before the court Twice he attended oral arguments in person to look those justices in the eyes. And today, Chief Justice John Roberts, leaning into that opinion from over 100 years ago, 1898, the last time the Supreme Court looked at this issue. And he said that precedent is still our precedent.
In a 6-3 decision, the court says the birthright citizenship clause in the 14th Amendment is upheld and said that President Trump's executive order rescinding birthright citizenship violates the 14th Amendment. In other national news, the U.S. labor market is in a holding pattern. ABC's Jim Ryan breaks down the latest numbers.
The monthly job openings and labor turnover survey, JOLTS, found that 7.6 million positions were created in May, nearly identical to the figure from April and better than labor analysts were expecting. Just over 5 million people lost their jobs through quitting, layoff, or firing, while 5.2 million found new jobs last month.
Your money at this moment. The Dow is up 122 at this hour. We are now at 52,305. Coming up, expect warmer weather as the week progresses. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 9:32. A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
Hi, this is Doug Wright. You know I love to talk about shopping at NPS, a nice place to save. And it's fun to talk about all the treasures and the unique things that are out there in the store, but I want to focus on the groceries. When we take our grandkids in there, we love to go into the grocery section because they see candies and fun items and treats that honestly, some of them they've never seen before. But for those of us who are concerned about the inflation right now and the cost of feeding our families, NPS, boy, they can really save you money. As you know, throughout the store, 20 to 70% off everything every single day. But boy, they have additional savings that are almost unbelievable. So whether you're shopping for the absolute basics or you're looking for fun things for the grandkids or something for an upcoming party, NPS can really save you money. There are 4 locations, the 2 stores in Salt Lake, 1 in Layton, 1 in Orem. That's NPS.
Hey Utah, have you heard? Nuclear energy might be coming to our state. Now, before your brain jumps straight into sci-fi movies, let's talk about what nuclear actually does. Nuclear technology helps power our nation's submarines, supports life-saving cancer treatments, and produces reliable electricity for millions of homes. That said, nuclear power also comes with some common misconceptions. Don't worry, we get it. Here's a fun fact. You're exposed to more radiation eating bananas than you are living near a nuclear power plant. And get this, a lifetime supply of nuclear energy fits into a single soda can. Despite what some people believe, nuclear energy is safe, clean, and incredibly efficient. But don't just take my word for it. Energy decisions matter, and Utahns deserve the facts. Learn more about nuclear and what it can mean for you. Visit energy.utah.gov/nuclear.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
The sounds of summer. They're great until they're not. Luckily, AutoZone has free battery testing and charging.
Let me check that for you.
To help make a rough moment smooth. Don't miss the Celebrate Free event at AutoZone. Free products with select deals until July 27th. And free services every day. Restrictions apply.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
I know that hiring can be challenging. You need someone to match your role perfectly. Well, now you can meet them fast on ZipRecruiter.
Build your team, build it sooner. Meet your match on ZipRecruiter.
Just head to ZipRecruiter.com/free right now to try it for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
Meet your match on ZipRecruiter. Try it free.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Learn how to save more this summer at UCCU.com. And here's Cormac Bone.
Well, we had a disabled vehicle eastbound on I-215 southbound just before Redwood Road. Looks like they quickly cleared that off the road. No delays built up behind them. Just a little bit of residual delays left over on northbound I-15 at 13th South. It's a little slow there. Where we have heaviest traffic is northbound US 40 in Summit County. That's from SR 248 all the way up to I-80. Due to construction, that's down to one lane through that stretch. Magnolia Bakery, New York's famous bakery, now open in Holiday Hills. Fresh banana pudding, cupcakes, and more. Magnolia Bakery in Holiday, where every bite feels like a trip to New York. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
We'll get up to 81 degrees today, 91 for July 4th, 98 to start next week. Right now it's mostly cloudy and 64 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the birthright citizenship of the provision of the 14th Amendment of the United States Constitution will continue to be the law of the land.
Look, many have been waiting with bated breath over the last year and a half, ever since President Trump issued an executive order redefining the 14th Amendment, which, by the way, you can't actually do to a constitutional amendment.
Well, and the Supreme Court said as much themselves today. They ruled that President Trump's executive order will not stand.
So the final Supreme Court decisions, we're going to continue our special coverage, but we're joined now by a local immigration attorney here in Utah to get his take on the ruling and how this whole thing has affected his clients.
We have Carlos Trujillo. Thanks for joining us again this morning, Carlos.
It is a pleasure to be with you guys again.
What was your initial reaction to this? Surprised, relieved, or just happy to have it over with?
Well, we are definitely very happy with this. There was so much concern for the immigrant community. It was something that it was definitely keeping people awake at night. There was people that were pregnant that were calling our office to get an appointment to really talk about the possibilities that these would stand and how it would affect their families. So it is something that it really gave us, let's say, a pause for celebration today among the many things that are happening. But I wanna give a word of caution, because there is something in this decision that I believe is very concerning.
What's that?
So, as you were mentioning at the beginning, the proper way to go about this, it should be a constitutional amendment. You're completely correct about that. However, in the dissent from Justice Gorsuch, he actually goes on to tell Congress, okay, and it's very specific. It's in the very last paragraph of his dissent, okay, that actually he does believe, after going through the whole case, that if Congress goes and pass a law using the identical wording of the presidential declaration, okay, that it will be constitutional. So he is, okay, opening the door and already signaling to the people that are in Congress right now, they have both houses of Congress, that they actually can accomplish this if they were to do it passing a law that only uses what the presidential declaration says.
So, Carlos, I'm not an attorney, but I know you and Greg are, but wouldn't that fly in the face of what the Supreme Court just ruled? I know what you said, he said in the dissent, but the Supreme Court just ruled that birthright citizenship, as written in the 14th Amendment, does hold.
Yes, and it does hold, but what they're saying is that the reason for his dissent is that the way that it was trying to be accomplished is what it didn't hold on. It's the way that they try. So what he went on to say is, but wait a second, if you were to do it this way, which again, according to my own studies and knowledge and being an officer of the court, for me, it does not. It needs to be a constitutional amendment. Let's be clear about that. But what is dangerous is the activism of Judge Gorsuch, okay, so much that they complain about this, but it's the activism of Judge Gorsuch to say, wait a second, if Congress goes on to pass a law using the same language that they use on the order issued by President Trump, that law will be upheld and it will limit the citizenship of children that are born from parents that are illegal or not residing here in the United States. And that is a very concerning thing because we know that they can actually try to do that now that they have the power in both houses.
And now that they have the green light, that could make a difference. Now, that's just one justice, of course, but certainly there would be some pushback, Holly. That doesn't mean it would necessarily happen. It just means one justice thinks that the decision might be different if, in fact, Congress did this. So Carlos is exactly right. Tell our listeners, Carlos, about this recent term of the Supreme Court, because this was a very good opinion for a lot of people, but we had a couple troubling opinions earlier this week, including one that dealt with temporary protective status for citizens of a couple of nations and asylum seekers. So it wasn't, overall, it was not a good term for immigrants by our Supreme Court.
Most definitely not. And I will just expand your comment to say that from my point of view, as an officer of the court, I don't even think that it was a good term for the rule of law. Because one of the key things that we look into the rule of law in this country is the power of precedents, the power of cases that had already been resolved, that had established already policy in this country, that had established, a baseline of how to go about it. And I will dare to say that this has been one of the terms that have gotten rid of most precedents that in the whole history of the United States. And that is a very concerning thing. One of the things is when you are talking about the rule of law is the security of, the precedent gives you, the way that you understand the law to how it operates, the way that you got taught in law school about it. And all of a sudden you're talking about decisions that are taking.
Yeah, I understand.
They were on the books. Okay. They were on the books for the last 30, 40, 50, 80 years. So for me, it's very concerning. Now, in regards to the immigrants, no, there were many decisions that are concerning. The TPS giving more power to the executive, it is very concerning because the executive branch, it is too volatile. It changes. So, the fact that we can take the example of one presidency said, we are extending. People make plans because they said, well, we are good for the next 18 months. But all of a sudden, a new president comes in and you only got 3 of those 18s. And now all those plans are down the drain because they decided not to uphold what those prior administrations did. So it is really sad that was the case. There was another big decision. People it didn't get the coverage as big as we wanted to, but there was a huge decision against permanent residents. It was something that it was very concerning. People that are permanent residents, they might be just accused of a crime. Very careful with this, just accused of a crime. They could be put in removal proceedings without even having a conviction against them. And they are applying this, trying to find these people when they come into the country, running checks at the time that they come back from vacations or something like that. So again, one of many decisions that were very concerning on this term.
Yeah, that seems to kind of run in the face of the presumption of innocence, Holly.
All right.
Thanks, Carlos.
Thanks so much, Carlos. Carlos Trujillo, an immigration attorney. When we come back, certainly birthright citizenship was the big focus of today's final Supreme Court rulings, but there were also rulings on transgender athletes and campaign finance. More on those topics coming up next.
So Soda told me that if from 4 weeks from when I started I could feel different, would I sign up? And I said, of course I would. So I did. And 4 weeks after signing up, I had lost 18 pounds. 7 weeks after I signed up, I had lost 30 pounds. 4 weeks made all the difference in the world. My weight, the way my clothes fit, that's what Soda's dynamic diet was built to do, and that's what it did for me. The dynamic diet is teaches you how to let go of the weight and keep it off for a lifetime. No shots, no pills, just real food, expert guidance, habits that last. And Soda believes that weight loss should be temporary. That is to say, once you get down to this weight, you can keep it off. And they've taught me, and they'll teach you how to keep it off as well. Weight loss medications can cost a lot of money for some people, and the bills don't end. Soda's different. It's based on on food that you're eating anyway, and you just change your habits and you can lose weight. You can get 4 weeks for free right now when you call 866-800-SODA, SOTA, and mention KSL News Radio. That's 866-800-SODA. Mention KSL News Radio to get 4 weeks free. SODA is, remember, say it with me, state of the art.
Ready for an adventure millions of years in the making? Enter KSL News Radio's America 250 contest for your chance to win an unforgettable dinosaur country getaway. One lucky winner will enjoy a 2-night stay at Dinosaur Inn and Suites, explore Dinosaur National Monument, experience an exciting 4-person Green River rafting trip, and take on a thrilling guided Via Ferrata adventure in Ashley Gorge. Sponsored by UNT County. Enter today at ksl.com/win.
Some of the most meaningful jewelry is the jewelry we never wear. It sits tucked away in a drawer. A ring from a grandmother, a pendant from years gone by. Pieces filled with stories, but not part of your everyday life. Duke's Jewelers believes those pieces deserve more. For over 75 years, Duke's Jewelers has helped families reimagine heirloom jewelry, transforming what once was into something you'll love wearing today and pass down tomorrow. Whether it's resetting a stone, redesigning a ring, or creating something entirely new, Duke's Jewelers will guide you through every step, right there in the store. And if you have jewelry that no longer fits your story, Duke's Jewelers also buys gold, offering a simple, transparent way to turn it into something meaningful again. Bring in what you have and create something you'll never want to take off. Duke's Jewelers on Main Street in Springville, where your story continues.
Do you know how to tell if a clogged drain is something to worry about or not? What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and I understand it's annoying and inconvenient, but sometimes a clogged drain can be a sign there's a more serious issue with your sewer main line. If the drains in the lowest level of your home aren't draining, or you flush a toilet and it comes up somewhere else like a shower or a floor drain, I'm urging you to look at this as more than just an annoyance. The last thing I want you to experience is a sewer backup. If you're a homeowner experiencing any of these issues, the first step would be to snake the line to see if it's just a blockage, which one of our drain techs can do for only $29. Yep, you heard that right. Any Hour Services will snake any drain line with normal access for only $29. Sinks, showers, tubs, toilets, floor drains, laundry drains, even that sewer main line that connects to the city. We'll snake any line for just $29. For help with your drain issues, call Any Hour Services at 801-443-7700. You can Google Any Hour Services. You can even schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
We wouldn't be celebrating America 250 if it wasn't for a strong foundation set by the framers. Hamilton built America's financial foundation on sound money, later embodied by the gold standard. But we abandoned that discipline in 1971 and have seen inflation erode the dollar's value. What's the foundation of your savings? Is it gold or something that can be devalued? Hi, it's Dr. Ron Paul, and I encourage you to speak with my friends at Birch Gold Group about diversifying an existing IRA or 401k into a tax-sheltered IRA in gold. Learn more by requesting a free info kit on gold IRAs. Just text the word SECURE to the number 989898. Let Birch Gold help you build your foundation with gold. Text the word SECURE to the number 989898. Text SECURE to 989898.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
The ridgeline is imposing, the escarpments, the drops.
A place where survival, it's dark now, I have nothing, is never certain. In 2011, an Australian hiker vanished.
Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard.
The mountains have decided to keep him.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts.
The new Inside Sources.
So the Utah, oh my gosh, the U.S. Supreme Court wrapped it up.
Today.
I know, the big leagues. So they have a term that goes basically from fall all the way to the end of June. That's pretty much their term. And they wrapped it up for the year. It began with a few rulings. Today were the last four. So the first two that came out today were rulings that were basically put together on transgender athletes, and then another one on campaign finance law.
Yeah, so in one opinion that they wrote, which actually covered two cases, there was an Idaho case and a West Virginia case that both dealt with those states restricting trans athletes from participating in girls' sports. The Supreme Court issued one opinion because the issues were virtually the same and said that they cannot participate in girls' or women's sports.
And the other opinion found that political parties should not be limited by campaign finance limits. So we're going to talk about both of those.
Yeah, let's start with the transgender athletes. This is ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy, who has more.
Justice Brett Kavanaugh's majority opinion says it's reasonable to have separate sports teams for boys and girls, pointing to the inherent physical differences between the sexes. The court's holding is that states may ban transgender athletes from girls' and women's sports, with Kavanaugh citing the need to reduce the risk of physical injury and ensure fair competition. The three liberal justices on the court wrote separately to express their disagreement with the majority's opinion.
Yeah, so he articulated that pretty well. But what the justice said was, look, one of the interests that the state would have in passing a law by limiting women's and girls' sports to those biologically female who are biologically born female at birth is to protect the interest of the state has in safety and competitive fairness. So if you're thinking that's an overriding concern, then the state's enacting legislation like that is fair.
So I wanted, you're the legal expert, but I wondered, there were two different approaches here with these two cases, even though they ruled on them. One was the Equal Protection Clause, right, and the other one was Title IX.
Okay, let's start with the Equal Protection Clause, because that's where we left off the last one, was the 14th Amendment,
right,
which has two provisions.
Right.
One, birthright citizenship. The other one is equal protection. The states cannot pass laws that deny equal protection to the individuals. So the courts decided unanimously that wait a minute. So the court, there were different opinions based on different rulings in this case. Right. One part of the court said, well, if you're basing it on Title IX, it's unanimous that the states can make decisions based on Title IX. But when you have the 14th Amendment and equal protection comes into play, then three of the justices dissented and said, wait a minute, this could very well be a violation of the 14th Amendment, the three liberal justices. So the upshot of the case was that states can pass legislation that restrict athletes who are born male from participating in women's sports. Trans athletes cannot participate in women's sports, at least in West Virginia and Idaho. Now, that opens the floodgates to any state that wants to do that, including Utah.
Which has done that.
Right, which has done that, but there's a temporary ban on it, but that's almost certainly going to be lifted now by what the Supreme Court did. But the three liberal justices said, well, that's fine under Title IX. We think that Congress can write Title IX to any way they want, and in fact, it doesn't preclude trans athletes, so you can read it that it would have, that's a fair reading of it. But the 14th Amendment really protects equal protection, and so under an equal protection argument, this law would fail. And so the reason that was important is because we combined the two cases in one, but one case was about Title IX, and the other case was about the 14th Amendment. So the majority still found that it was appropriate for the states to do that, but the dissent said, okay, under one state did it correctly because they did it under Title IX. The other state did it incorrectly because they relied on the defense was the 14th Amendment. The equal protection was not a basis to do that.
So would they just rewrite their laws then?
Yes, I mean, so now every state can, if they want to, can rewrite their laws and say trans athletes cannot participate in girls' and women's sports.
Under Title IX.
Under Title IX. And that would be under this now Supreme Court decision, because the majority found even under an equal protection argument it's fine. You can imagine a lot of states will go ahead and start doing that.
So let me ask you one final question on this one, and that is, do you have any idea how this might impact the NCAA?
Well, I mean, the NCAA is also bound by Title IX, because Title IX it deals with any school, and it's not just for athletes, but when you're talking when you're talking about the NCAA, you are talking about athletes. Any school that receives federal funding is subject to Title IX, and Title IX seems to imply that you can't make decisions based on gender. Now, the Supreme Court has said Title IX does not preclude a state from doing that. So the question is, may a state ban trans athletes under Title IX, they can do that.
Right.
Now, there's a case that may be coming down the pike next year that will be, must states ban trans athletes? And that's going to be an interesting opinion. Is the Supreme Court going to take it one step further and say,
is interesting.
Do they have to ban trans athletes? Right now, it was a May decision. I think you're going to see a decision next year is it must trans athletes be banned under Title IX? Well, Title IX clearly doesn't say that. That would be a stretch to me, but you don't know with our Supreme Court.
So I guess my question with the NCAA is if you've got states that have different laws, how they might navigate that. But that may be just in the rulemaking issue.
Right. Yeah, if
they compete across state lines with different laws.
I think what it would probably come to is what the conference would say. The conference may say, look, we're going to, I don't know. That's an interesting question.
Okay.
You're
All
so
right.
smart. Yeah, that's an interesting question.
Let's at least touch on campaign finance because this one is super interesting. This is not the big Citizens United decision, but this does pertain to political parties openly coordinating with candidates. And the claim was, and this was by then Senator J.D. Vance, now he's the vice president, of course, saying this is a First Amendment violation. Well, the Supreme Court agreed.
Yeah, so it's limited to campaign contributions from political parties.
Right.
Because federal campaign finance laws do have limits on what certain groups can contribute.
Right.
The Supreme Court has now said that's fine, but when the contributor is a political party in a coordinated effort with candidates, there are no limitations on what they can contribute. So this is a switch. And maybe one step further, in Trump's plan for the Save America Act, and what he's doing with voting and with rights like that. I mean, it certainly was a huge, gift to the Republican Party, although it applies to both parties. The Democrats could do the same thing.
What's interesting, and we had Carlos Trujillo point out that the court has overturned several things. Well, this is one of the cases where they overturned their own ruling in 2001, where they had a Colorado issue, and they decided the opposite way. And so in this ruling, they said it's overturned, it's overruled.
Yeah, I mean, Carlos Trujillo made a good point about the rule of law. We lawyers look at precedent when we argue cases. Of course, what do you have? You say, well, in 1964, the United States Supreme Court decided the Miranda case. That's the law. Well, maybe in 2027, you don't have to give the people the right to remain silent. You know what I mean? We could change that.
Yeah.
So it's an ever-changing landscape.
Yeah. So I think this one is interesting. I think you could see, for example, even more money pouring into the quote-unquote favored candidate, right? So definitely tilting the scales for even if an inter-party challenge, like a primary, right? I could see that happening.
So I was asked earlier today if this could apply to midterms. Well, it's now the state of the law. So I guess if there's a coordinated effort by the Republican or the Democratic Party to boost one particular candidate, it applies prospectively.
Yeah.
And it could very well apply to this election cycle that's coming up here.
Yep.
That's interesting. Fun Supreme Court. We're done. For the year.
For the year.
My wonderful time of the year. Of course, you with elections and me with the courts.
I know. It's been a good couple of weeks.
Well, next up on Inside Sources, we'll finish up our recap on the Supreme Court and some of the major decisions that came back. We'll give a breakdown. We'll also shift gears to America 250, plus more on Utah's Fire Watch. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
10 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled against President Trump and his efforts to rescind birthright citizenship. That's the clause in the Constitution that states people born in the U.S. are U.S. citizens. In a 6-3 decision, the court says the birthright citizenship clause of the 14th Amendment is upheld and said that President Trump's executive order rescinding birthright citizenship violates the 14th Amendment. More from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
What Chief Justice John Roberts did today was focus on the text of the 14th Amendment, saying that it means what it says, that all persons born in the United States are citizens thereof, and also leaning into a precedent from 1898.
In local news, officials now estimate 150 buildings have been destroyed in the Cottonwood Fire burning in Beaver and Piute counties. The good news is that crews say they've been able to protect 130 buildings from the fire, and today some people are going to be able to start checking or going up to check on their properties. Though Beaver County Sheriff Cody Black tells KSL they will be checking IDs first.
I made a promise to this community that I would not allow looters to go in and ransack their stuff. That's why we have law enforcement all day, every day on this thing. The fire people are reporting to us, the people that are up there.
The fire is now 4% contained. It's burned almost 94,000 acres. Your money at this moment, the Dow right now up 134 points. We're at 52,317. Coming up, temperatures in the 80s today, but that won't last long. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 10:02.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
In the military, the mission was clear. You knew what to do. Now, the mission has changed. Stepping into civilian life isn't about finding a job. It's finding your purpose.
I wanted a career that would leverage the skills and discipline I gained in the military. IT just felt right.
My Computer Career offers class schedules that fit into your life and skills in high demand. Put your VA benefits to work. Visit mycomputercareer.edu/CWP to jumpstart your IT career today. An elite CompTIA certification partner. Financial aid is available to those who qualify, including VA benefits.
From the FIFA World Cup to competitive business environments, grand ambitions lead to game-changing achievements. At Bank of America, we're there to support businesses at every step, providing insights and expertise to help you gain an edge.
He shoots, he scores!
What would you like the power to do? Explore winning business solutions at BofA.com/gamechangers. Bank of America, official bank of the FIFA World Cup 2026.
For 250 years, the beating heart of the USA has been the people who call this land home and the communities we make here together. America First Credit Union is proud to have been a part of those communities for 87 years and proud to help our members realize their financial dreams. So come join us in celebrating and succeeding the way Americans always have. Together. Federally insured by NCUA.
Usually when something sounds way too good to be true, it is. Imagine someone saying you can cut your mobile bill in half. Sounds like a fantasy, but with Xfinity Mobile, it's the real deal. Because when you have Xfinity Internet, you can cut your mobile bill in half, plus try Xfinity Mobile free for a year. No commitment. That's a lot of streaming, sharing, scrolling, whatever else you can do with your phone, all for half the price and none of the commitment. That means you'll save big over Verizon, AT&T, and T-Mobile. Wild. Now all you have to do is think about how you'll spend all that extra money. Call 1-800-XFINITY, go to xfinitymobile.com, or visit your local Xfinity store to switch today. Xfinity. Imagine that. Restrictions apply. Savings compare one line of Xfinity Mobile Select to comparable plans from T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T as of 3/24/26. Taxes, fees, extra. $30 monthly discount limited to new mobile customers only after 12 months. Regular rates apply. Go to xfinitymobile.com.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Auto loan rates as low as 4.74% APR. And here's Cormac Bone.
We do have reports of an accident in Taylorsville at 4700 South near 2700 West. It seems to be affecting eastbound 4700 South. Heavier traffic between 3200 West and 7200 West just before you get to I-215's West Belt. On all our freeways, though, looking really good all across the Wasatch Front. No delays on I-15, but northbound US 40 in Summit County still seeing some very heavy traffic in that lane restriction. It's only one lane northbound from about 248 SR 248, that is, all the way up to I-80 in Summit County. I'm Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
It'll be cloudy today with highs only about 81 degrees, 87 tomorrow. We get up to 91 by July 4th. Right now, it's mostly cloudy, 67 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the highest court in the land has wrapped up its term for the year, but in light of a decision about mail-in voting, it was a Mississippi case that we heard yesterday, Republican lawmakers are reemphasizing their desire to make changes to voting through the Save America Act.
And Utah Senator Mike Lee says the court's decision makes it, quote, more urgent than ever to pass his election bill. Speaker of the House Mike Johnson says he'll push it through the House as part of a must-pass defense bill.
Yeah, that's one way to get a bill passed that nobody likes, is to put it in a bill that nobody has a choice but to pass and to tie it into that. That's, I don't know, I really struggle with that. But what happened was the Mississippi law that allowed for mail-in ballots to be counted up to 5 days after Election Day, so long as they were postmarked before Election Day, has caused some concern because some people are concerned about mail-in voting.
Right.
We in Utah have a law that we used to be similar, but now we say it has to be received
in hand.
In hand by Election Day. So anyway, the Supreme Court upheld Mississippi's law. Some people, like Utah Senator Mike Lee, said, well, wait a minute, that really shows why we need to have a national law about elections, which we're calling the Save America Act.
So one of the things that's different about this than birthright citizenship is that the court ruled that basically this isn't a constitutional issue. This is a legislative issue.
Right.
And that states right now have the right to determine this. One of the things that the Save America Act would do would be to basically eliminate mail-in voting, except for very few exceptions.
Right, like military and people like that they're in
very
out
few.
of the country for some things.
And it would go to same-day voting, in-hand paper ballots, and then, of course, the identification stuff, which is a passport that would work. It's not even that the real ID would work. So you can get it on an airplane, but it wouldn't be good enough for you to vote right now. For most states, only 5 have the level of scrutiny that they want.
Yeah, and of course the interest for everyone, including Mike Lee, is election integrity. And if you think about mailing in a ballot, it's harder to prove that the person who mailed it was actually the voter. Now, we haven't had problems with that, and history has shown that mail-in voting has been accurate and fair and has been without fraud. The same thing with people who show up at the voting booth and want to vote. Mike Lee would have them produce some level of identification or proof of citizenship. I think the Save America Act would require that, at least to get your voting.
So that's how you come to the issue of a passport, right? Is carrying a passport. Now those aren't free. And what's interesting to me, really, one of the things that's interesting about the Save America Act, that it just keeps, it's like the Frankenstein bill. It keeps dying and getting resurrected. So it hasn't passed at this point, but we'll see. But one of the things that's interesting is we had to have real ID, right? You have to prove citizenship. There's and residency. When you go in to get your real ID, your driver's license with the little gold star. However, that's not good enough in the Save America Act, which seems weird to me. It's like you already had to prove it. That's how we got real ID, and that took like 25 years.
Right. That seems to be a pretty compelling proof. I mean, you would think that
I mean,
that
you
means
did have to
something.
prove with your birth certificate or with a passport.
You know, there's a push, and I understand both sides to it. One side says there should be a high level of election integrity. We should have proof of citizenship. We should have people actually showing up to vote, and we know who they are. We see who they are. And there's another push that says we should have more people voting. And if you make it harder for people to vote, some people won't vote. If you had to stand in line every year, let's say it's raining on November 3rd when the election day happens to come, and it's like, no, I'm not going.
Right.
But you otherwise would have voted had mail-in ballots been available to you. You're going to have a less populous group voting, and that's not what we want in America. But I also understand that we want integrity. So, the thing that troubles me. And we've done some studies here in Utah that show that mail-in voting is without fraud. We don't have issues. You know what I mean? We've had a tremendous amount of integrity with mail-in voting. We've done our own audits, and so it's a problem that doesn't need to be solved because there's no problem there. We don't That's what I don't get about the Save America Act. I think there's an ulterior motive, and that is to make it harder for people to vote, because we know that there are certain groups that have a harder time voting, and some of them may be more liberal thinking.
Actually, I've seen some reports to say this would hurt Republican states, but because they're majority Republican by so far, that yes, it would impact some Democratic voters as well. Anyway, it's interesting. But part of the procedural stuff that is happening back in D.C. right now, it's interesting because Mike Johnson is saying we're going to do this one process. They call it MIRVing, which is really interesting. It stands for let's see.
MIRV?
No, it's MIRV. So it's a way to merge onto the rule. I don't know how you get the V, but anyway, that means that when Republicans vote for the rule on the NDAA and everything else in there, that includes merging the Save America Act that they already passed. But if you remember yesterday, I told you Representative Luna from Florida submitted an amendment to attach the Save America Act to the NDAA, but she hates Johnson's plan. And she's the one right now that has totally gummed up all action in the House because she's like, nope, we're not going to do it. So until we pass the Save America Act. So it's interesting because she's like, if you quote MIRV, the NDAA plus either Save America or voter ID, it allows the Senate to strip it out, and she won't do it.
What happened yesterday with the housing bill? Did Johnson send that to the president?
He did send it to the president, and he hasn't signed it. In fact, the president called it a yawner, that he didn't care one way or the other. So I don't know if that's an indication that he's going to let it pass into law in 10 days. I don't know for sure, but he said it was just a yawner and he didn't care about it.
Well, I digress for a minute. I just thought about that when we were talking about the Save America Act, because Trump had said a week or so ago, I'm not signing the housing bill until we pass the Save America Act. Now Johnson's saying, okay, the housing bill's gone to the president. Let's talk about the defense bill in relation to the Save America Act. It's one bill tied to another when they really have very little in common.
Yeah, they don't really have anything in common, but it is something that does happen in D.C., and you do see that. It's an interesting conversation of you failed at the Supreme Court to do this by executive order, so can we do it legislatively? And if you do it legislatively, can you do it by attaching it to something else, like you already mentioned, that's a must pass? I have seen things held up because people just would not vote for the poison pill, so to speak.
Yeah, it's just been interesting to me, troubling that so many Republicans and conservatives are mad at the Supreme Court right now, because it is Republican and conservative as it's ever been in its history. And instead of winning, 100% of their cases, they win 80 or 90%, and they're mad. Like, come on, you guys! This term of the Supreme Court was, in terms of immigration and presidential power, as bad as it has ever been, or as good as it's ever been, depending on what side you're on. So the fact that people are attacking, even Mike Lee, we need to pass the Save America Act because of this thing by the Supreme Court. I mean, they threw a bone to Mississippi for 5 days of leeway for mail-in voting, and suddenly we need to pass the Save America Act and do away with mail-in voting altogether. I mean, boy, the Supreme Court couldn't have given the Republicans much more this session, but they seem to always want a little bit more. I shouldn't say that. The president's got an agenda that just is so out there sometimes that he wants 100%, and he's never happy unless he gets it.
Well,
Sorry,
okay. No. I mean, it's just interesting. We're going to see how that plays out. But remember, they're leaving town, I don't know, Thursday?
Yeah.
Thursday, because Friday is the federal holiday, and they're going to be gone for a couple of weeks. They'll come back, then they'll be gone for they'll be gone for all of August.
Right.
Okay, look, after the break, we're going to finish up our special coverage on the Supreme Court's final decisions with a recap of this term and what we think of the court's direction given this year's opinions. And we'll be talking with an editor from SCOTUS blog. Stay with us.
What if I told you that 4 weeks from now, everything could feel different? Your energy, your weight, the way your clothes fit, that is what SOTA Dynamic Diet is built to do. And right now, listeners of this program can get 4 weeks free when they call 866-800-SODA and mention KSL Radio. That is, they get the SODA plan for 4 weeks. That is the plan that teaches diet and nutrition in a way that helps you get weight off and keep it off for a lifetime. No shots, no pills, just real food and expert guidance. I had a nutritionist who called me every Wednesday and said, Skordas, what are you doing? And checked on me, and I kept a plan. I kept a budget and a food plan. I told her what I was eating and when. She said, change this, work on that. And I lost 30 pounds in 7 weeks. And I started in April. It's now almost the end of June, and I've kept it off. I've managed to keep it off. It's been a great plan for me. It's something I want to stay with the rest of my life. SODA is, mention this at the end of the ad. Say it with me, state of the art.
Can you hear it? That's the sound of nature waking up in Box Elder County. Spring has sprung, and the first visitors are already here. From grebes to geese, Bear River Bird Refuge is alive with the sound of thousands of wings. And it's not just the birds who are invited. There's plenty for you to enjoy. Experience the world-class minerals at Crystal Hot Springs. Stand on the spot where the railroads joined and forged the destiny of a nation at Golden Spike National Historic Park. Check out the jaw-dropping murals up and down Tremonton's charming Main Street. The list goes on and on. Hungry? From fine dining to classic comfort food, Box Elder County has something that's sure to hit the spot. In Box Elder County, the air is fresher, the sky is wider, and spring is in full bloom. Come wake up your senses and plan your spring escape at visitboxeldercounty.com. Produced in partnership with the Utah Office of Tourism.
My summer plans are now double the fun with double points on gas and groceries with my Rewards Visa credit card from Cyprus Credit Union. Every time I fill up or buy groceries, I earn double points that I can redeem for cash back, gift cards, travel, and more. Make summer spending twice as rewarding. Visit CyprusCU.com.
Cyprus Credit Union, your future is our future.
Equal Opportunity Lender.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. What do you have to lose? Call 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
I'm back to doing what I love and more, thanks to the Good Feet store.
Do you spend half your day walking or standing while working? If you have foot, knee, or back problems, the Good Feet store wants to help you like we helped Tony.
Pain that I experience the most is foot pain from being on my feet all day. You're having to kind of talk to yourself through the whole shift, like, I got this, I can do this. Before, I felt defeated, and now it's like, all right, let's go. I'm ready. A whole new life, like sunshine coming on.
And how about working more comfortably, like Dennis?
Working at an amusement park, it's always on your feet. I just couldn't take it, but I didn't have a choice. I just couldn't believe that putting these arch supports in made that much of a difference that quickly. I could do my job and I could take care of my family. I know what my tomorrow is going to be. It's going to be positive.
You deserve a better life too. Stop in the Good Feet store today. We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Thanks to the Good Feet store.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Before a disaster turns your family's world upside down, it's up to you to be ready. Get a kit, make a plan, be informed. Learn how at www.ready.gov. Brought to you by the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
Well, it's done. The Supreme Court has issued its final opinions for the term. Now we want to take a look back on the biggest decisions and talk about what that could say about the future of the court.
From our friends at SCOTUS Blog. So we're going to recap the term with Kelsey Dallas, who's managing editor at SCOTUS Blog. Kelsey, thanks for joining us on a very busy day after a couple of busy days.
Yes, thanks for having me, and apologies if I look at all frazzled. As you noted, it's been a busy day and a busy month for the court.
So I know that when I need SCOTUS news, I go to SCOTUS Blog. So I was one of the, 42,000 people online this morning. So I wonder if you can start by giving us just a recap of the term overall and maybe some of your most interesting cases that you watched this term.
Well, some are calling this the Trump term or the executive power term because so many of the major decisions centered around Trump administration policies and address the limits of executive power. So that included this morning's major decision on the executive order on birthright citizenship. The court struck that down. But it also included the February decision in the tariffs case, where the court blocked the Trump administration from imposing tariffs using the International Emergency Economic Powers Act. And as you may have discussed yesterday, the court addressed the president's authority over the heads of independent agencies and basically increased the president's oversight of leaders of agencies such as the Federal Trade Commission, but then held the line on the Fed, preventing, at least for now, Trump from removing Fed Governor Lisa Cook from her post. So this was a term, and it sort of seems like we're going to continue that theme into next term, where the court was trying to define the limits of the executive branch's authority and also how that authority interacts with Congress and the court itself.
Well, and even the very last opinion started with an executive order. And Kelsey, was it no accident that was the last opinion that was issued by the Supreme Court, sort of saving the best for last? Because it was the one, it seems, that most of us were holding their breath for. And what I was talking about, of course, is the birthright citizenship opinion.
Right. The court almost always saves a blockbuster decision for last, the last day of the term, at least. But the actual order they release the opinions on a specific day relates to seniority. And so Chief Justice John Roberts' opinions will come last. Of course, those two things work together to lead to a blockbuster opinion because Roberts often writes those major decisions from the court. So we were definitely expecting this one to be near the end of the term. And here it was as the very final opinion.
So were you surprised by any of the rulings this year?
Yes. There was an opinion yesterday on mail-in ballots and basically whether states are allowed to offer grace periods where a mail-in ballot that is postmarked by Election Day, but then received maybe up for 5 days after Election Day, it can still be counted. Based on how the court had ruled in a variety of other election day cases or election cases, voting cases, it just seemed as if they were headed toward this route where mail-in ballots would definitely have to arrive by Election Day, and states across the country would have to quickly adjust their policies to account for this decision. But no, the court ruled yesterday that those grace periods are allowed under federal election law.
You know, one thing that surprised me, Kelsey, and I want to go back to the decision we talked about a minute ago, which was the last decision regarding birthright citizenship, is, of course, it involved an executive order. And, of course, the court seemed to give some significant deference to Trump's executive orders. But this one involved the Constitution of the United States and an amendment which was passed 150 years ago. And I, not being a constitutional scholar by any means, but being a lawyer for 44 years, figured the worst case scenario is that would be 7-2, but it was 6-3 and maybe 5-4. Were you surprised that case got as close as it did to actually going in Trump's direction?
I'm glad you highlighted that. That could very well have been the answer as to a surprise, because after oral argument, almost every commentator was saying, okay, Trump's executive order is going down. Maybe it's even going to be 9-0, but Justice Thomas very much supports this executive power, and so maybe it'll be 8-1. And as you noted, we ended up with this opinion where 5 of the justices either wrote or joined that majority opinion, and then Kavanaugh was out on his own, where he supported the judgment but took issue with sort of the argument used in Roberts' majority opinion. So we haven't even included the vote count on our case page because it's complex. But you're right. That's a very fair point. I think that Justice Neil Gorsuch being in dissent is surprising because, again, after oral argument, most court watchers were counting him in the majority.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I feel like there has been a real anti-immigrant slant towards the Supreme Court this session. Do you see that from a up close observer?
There were definitely several decisions that went in favor of the federal government having more power to remove people from the country or deport people or remove protections. I believe it's important to point out that those decisions were highlighting pieces of immigration law that were up for debate and also able to be changed. So even though this term had several losses for the immigrant community, Congress is able to take action in response to those decisions if Congress is able to take action on anything. Like, I know you probably discuss on your show that Congress does not always get into gear in response to these crises, but because most of those decisions relate to the text of a statute, Congress has the authority to then change the text of that statute to offer protections to the people who just lost them.
Kelsey, we also heard today a decision that dealt with 2 cases out of West Virginia and Idaho involving states' bans of trans athletes. And there were some hurdles that the Supreme Court had to negotiate. One was Title IX, and one was the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment. They did manage to jump those hurdles. Do you think that this is the beginning of something further in terms of LGBTQ legislation, and maybe that the Supreme Court's opening the door for some states to take further steps than what they've done just with trans athletes?
Yes, that was a big talking point on our SCOTUS blog live blog this morning. The idea that this ruling in the cases were called West Virginia v. BPJ and Little v. Hecox was actually just setting the stage for a future ruling about how states must regulate transgender athletes. So this term, they were considering if West Virginia and Idaho could prevent transgender athletes from competing with women's and girls sports teams. And in the future, I believe the host of Advisory Opinion, Sarah Isgur, has said the Second Circuit is currently considering a case like this. But that next case would be, do states have to, must they prevent transgender athletes from competing on women's and girls sports teams? That was another interesting opinion today. The opinion addressed both of those cases, and they're not making our lives easier on the vote count, because in some ways it was actually, I think, 9-0 on the Title IX element, saying that states have a right to pass these regulations. And then what's up for debate is the 14th Amendment, the Equal Protection Clause. And that's where I think you would describe it more of a 6-3 with the Democratic appointed justices in dissent.
So, Kelsey, we only have about 30 seconds left, but give us your forecast for the next term.
Well, it's going to be another blockbuster term, because we already know that the court has taken up several immigration related cases, and those are the types of cases that have so many emotions involved for so many court watchers. They also just today, moments before our conversation started, took up Second Amendment cases. So that issue is not going anywhere. And so it just feels like for next year and even the year after, we're definitely not going to have a quiet term.
All right. Thanks, Kelsey. Thanks for joining us again. That was Kelsey Dallas, managing editor for SCOTUS blog, which is something Holly and I tune into every morning when the Supreme Court's about to issue an opinion.
Yeah.
Coming up next on Inside Sources, American pride has fallen to a 25-year low. That's according to a new Gallup poll. Not a great sign as we prepare for the nation's 250th birthday. More on that next.
10:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Amanda Dixon. Our top story this hour, one person has died and two others have been seriously hurt in an apparent construction accident in Rich County. KSL News Radio's Adam Small has details.
We're learning this happened late yesterday morning in the Monte Cristo area. The Rich County Sheriff's Office is telling us a group of construction workers were installing roof trusses when it appears a gust of wind caused multiple trusses to collapse, knocking two men off of the roof and pinning another underneath a truss. The Sheriff's Office says a 56-year-old man was killed and two others were taken to the hospital, one of which had to be life-flighted. They also say a fourth worker was injured and treated. At this point, investigators have not said anything indicating foul play. They are calling this a tragic accident. Adam Small, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship.
In upholding the citizenship rights of all children born in the U.S., except those born to ambassadors, Chief Justice John Roberts points to what the drafters of the 14th Amendment said about the promise of citizenship to every freeborn person in this land. We keep that promise today, Roberts writes. Three of his fellow conservatives dissented, with Clarence Thomas expressing his view that neither the Constitution nor the law guarantee citizenship to people born in the U.S. if their parents aren't domiciled here.
That's ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy. Your money at this moment. The Dow is up 157 points at this hour. We're at 52,340. Today we'll get up to around 80 degrees. We'll check KSL weather next. KSL News Time, 10:32. Mornings are for recharging.
And they're for starting your day right.
We volunteer to join you in the car. Get news and weather at 102.7 FM during the most important part of your day.
Andy and Amanda, each morning between 5 and 9 on KSL News Radio.
Join KSL News Radio tomorrow at 11 a.m. for a special edition of Inside Sources, Utah Unites America 250, brought to you by America First Credit Union and the state of Utah. Legendary host Doug Wright is going to be here to host a town hall meeting focused on what we have in common and how we bridge the political differences that divide us. This town hall will feature some prominent political names on both sides of the aisle. It's a special hour, commercial-free, and you'll only hear it here on KSL News Radio.
I was called out on a case in the burbs. A pretty little house, nice landscaping. The owner was obviously upset.
It's horrible. Look.
Scandalous, to say the least. There it was. A brand new oak tree, dead as a doornail. But why?
I only bought it from the nursery a few months ago.
I stepped over the chalk line and dug down to investigate. Sure enough, circling roots. Like most nursery pots, this one, it caused the roots to spiral around the tree. It was death by strangulation. You should have bought a super tree, I said.
Super tree?
Super trees are grown in special air pods to promote superior root development and prevent roots from circling. Super trees grow faster, stronger, and have better foliage, she said.
My landscaping will never be the same.
I tipped my hat and said, case closed.
Visit Super Trees and receive 10% off. Super Trees at the Riverton Nursery, 2767 West, 126 South, or online at supertrees.com.
This is a special alert to all Americans who own a vehicle with less than 200,000 miles with an auto warranty about to expire or with no warranty coverage at all. Due to a decline in the economy, CarShield is announcing a low-cost month-to-month vehicle protection plan that is now available to the public to save any driver out-of-pocket expenses on future auto repairs. Call now to find out how you can pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. Yes, you heard that correctly. Pay almost nothing for covered auto repairs. An open phone line has been established for all drivers to call for a free quick quote. Call 800-330-8323 now. Drivers who are covered will not have to pay for covered repairs again. This protection plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-330-8323. That's 800-330-8323. What do you have to lose? Call 800-330-8323. Again, 800-330-8323.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. At first to you, Cormac.
I-15 running clean and clear all across the Wasatch Front. Really, most of our major roadways also the same story. It's only in Summit County where we have any major delays, and that's northbound US 40 approaching I-80. Due to construction, it's down to one lane, and it looks like there might be a closure of the ramp to go westbound on I-80 from northbound US 40. You can still get on westbound I-80 if you go under the freeway and flip around. Those ramps are still open. Common Spirit hospitals, clinics, and caregivers all connected to advanced healthcare in Colorado, Kansas, and Utah. Healthcare with Human Kindness is here. Hello, Human Kindness. Cormac Bone in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today we'll get up to 81 degrees, mostly cloudy skies. We warm up to 87 tomorrow, 91 for July 4th. Right now it's cloudy and 67 degrees. I'm Amanda Dixon from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Well, the question of the morning is now, are you proud to be an American?
And look, it's pretty blunt, but it's sincere, and we really want to know, are you proud to be an American today? Join the conversation. Text us at 57500.
I think I want to sing that song, but
I know.
I'm proud to be an American. At least
you should
I
sing
know
it.
I'm
You
free.
really should sing it.
You'd quit the show if I sing. We're talking about this today, just a few days away from our country's 250th birthday, however, because of a new Gallup poll. That poll found that American pride has fallen to its lowest level since 9/11.
Yeah. The good news is there are still a lot of people who are proud to be an American. But as we're getting ready to mark the 250th anniversary, only 33%, one-third of U.S. adults say they are extremely proud to be an American. It's the lowest reading in Gallup's surveying that started in 2001, right around the time of 9/11, right? So that was the high mark where 65 to 70% of Americans said they were extremely proud to be American.
Yeah, that's a scary number. Moderately proud, 22%, only a little bit proud, 15%, not proud at all, 9%. But, I want to talk about something you and I did Friday night.
Yeah.
Because we had dinner with a group of foreign journalists, and part of that dinner was, it seemed, putting you and I on a little bit about, well, why should these journalists write something good about America?
Mm-hmm.
And the more I talked, the more proud I was to be an American. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I guess if somebody asked me if I'm proud to be an American, you're right. I am. I was going to swear, but you're darn right. I mean, I'm proud to be an American. I mean, am I embarrassed at what's happening to the country right now? Yes. If I was in Europe right now, would I be wearing the Stars and Stripes? Probably not. I mean, I think that we've taken a huge hit internationally, but we're still Americans. I mean, I don't know. I wouldn't want to be living anywhere else.
So you and I talked about this too in a different context as well when we talked about patriotism versus nationalism, and
right.
then so one of the things that really stood out to me with part of that conversation and a subsequent one with a high school civics professor or teacher was the idea that the Declaration of Independence was aspirational, and that there's a promise there that everyone is created equal.
Yeah.
Now, we haven't always lived up to that promise, but we have definitely made strides in 250 years. I think for me, that's where I look at it and say, yeah, right, there's work to do, but we have come a long ways. So I just think it's interesting, this polling, right? And I've seen it consistently. It's not just Gallup, but people are feeling some angst this year.
Yeah, and I guess I can understand that. I mean, it surged after 9/11, but there were some times when we have been at a low point in this country. I mean, I imagine if you were taking polls back into the time of the Great Depression or, World War I, of course, we're up, and then Depression will go down, World War II, we're up again, and then, who knows, Vietnam, maybe problems, things like that. It's cyclical, but generally, I don't know, these numbers are a little bit troubling, but I can understand them. You're just asking people what they think about their country, and some are not too proud.
Well, I would say too, if you look at all of the numbers together, I have to do math in my head. You have 55, 65, 70% who still fall in the I'm at least a little proud of our country.
Right.
I mean, that's not bad.
Right.
Look, we do have a number of texters. I want to share some of these. So one says maybe not as much proud to be an American as grateful to be an American. Our country isn't perfect, but it's still the greatest place on earth to live. Another texter says, absolutely. So proud to be an American. Another one says, I'm not proud. We should be embarrassed with the current chaos we have created. And then another texter says, I am proud to be an American, but I am not proud of our government. Okay? I mean, we have a variety. So I think another person, again, I wouldn't want to live anywhere else, but right now it's embarrassing to be an American.
I completely understand that, but you and I work in two professions where we have every reason to be proud. You're a journalist, and the First Amendment in this country, we may not be the best country right now in terms of First Amendment type issues, but it's still there, and it's the First Amendment for a reason. You know, my practice throughout my career has been in the criminal justice system, both as a prosecutor and defense attorney. Our court system, our jury system, our Bill of Rights is second to none.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm proud.
Due process and the rule of law.
Like you say, the Declaration of Independence, who would have thought that we'd be talking about that 250 years later?
Yeah.
That we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
All humans.
Yeah, right, right.
Look, you're right about the First Amendment and journalism. And I used to be a blogger before I started writing for newspapers. But here's one of the things that I've said since those very early days, and that's been 18 years since I've started putting public opinions out, right, on my political stuff. And it's this. I do not have to worry about ending up beheaded under a bridge because I write something critical of the government.
Right.
I don't have to worry about that. I
Right.
do have the right to be able to do that.
Right, and I don't have to worry about the government knocking my door down and coming into my house.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about somebody pulling me over for no reason and stopping me and searching my car. You know, we have the Bill of Rights, and when it comes right down to it, yesterday we had an
we
opinion,
just had a
ruling where the Supreme Court said, hey, maybe this whole cell phone thing is protected by the Fourth Amendment, because when the Fourth Amendment was written, we didn't have cell phones, we didn't have internet, we didn't have any of that stuff. But
And that it counts as a search.
Let's talk about how it applies. Is that a search when you're looking at somebody's cell phone data? The Supreme Court said, sounds like a search to me.
Yeah, I think that's interesting, right? And we continue to have texts. I'm very proud to be an American. I'm proud to have served this country. And then they say, if you don't feel that way, you can move to Russia. So look, I don't think that's fair either. I don't think that's a fair assessment to say if somebody disagrees with me, they should leave. That's one of the conversations we need to be able to have and say, where are you having the heartburn? Like, why are you feeling embarrassed, right? Can we, like, what points of agreement can we come together on? That's where I think we're sometimes lacking the ability to talk to people that don't see the things the same way we do.
It's sad, though, that the pride in our country is at an all-time low. I mean, I think that how do we phrase it with respect to the president? His approval ratings are
really low.
Very, very low right now. And I think that there is a lull in this country. I mean, which is unfortunate because tomorrow's July 1st. And we're like 5 days away from the 250th anniversary of our Declaration of Independence.
Yep.
It is a very, very good time to be extremely proud of our country. I'll tell you something else that I was listening to a podcast about the World Cup and all the countries that are here and how the people from these other countries are just they're being treated so warmly and being welcomed by the Americans. And
sports is healing.
They were coming here thinking, oh boy, what are we walking into?
Yeah.
And I think the same may be true for the journalists that we had dinner with the other night. But I don't think anybody went away thinking, wow, these people in America are messed up. You know what I mean?
I've seen that too about the World Cup, and it's not just the way the athletes and their fans have been treated, but the way they have treated the America, right? The way they've treated us as they've left. Like one of them took out, I think it was Scotland, big billboards and full page ads saying thank you for your hospitality to Boston.
Right.
So look, there are
We've got an Iranian team.
Yeah, we have a couple of other comments, and there are people in America who worry about those rights you just mentioned, says one commenter, one texter. Another one says, I'm proud to be an American, but not proud of some of my fellow Americans. And then both things happening to people across the country, Greg, saying some of the things that you say you don't have to worry about, but some people do have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for weighing in on that. It's an interesting conversation. Next on Inside Sources, Utah Fire Watch. We're going to have updates on the fires burning around the state right now and how it's affecting 4th of July plans besides fireworks, and the importance of federal and state partnerships as crews fight the fires.
After I turned 60 and beyond, I started noticing I was putting on a little bit of weight. My pants weren't fitting the same. I couldn't even put my wedding ring on. I was just gaining weight in a way that was bothering me. And I had wrestled in high school, which meant I was able to lose weight just by thinking about it. It was not a problem. But as I got older and older, it became harder and harder. So I contacted SOTA Diet Nutrition because some of the folks here at KSL told me do it. And because I really didn't want to get on medication, they do it based on nutrition. And they hooked me up with a nutritionist who got me on a program of food that you can buy at the grocery store. I didn't have to buy food through them. I didn't have to do any such thing. I just bought the food that they recommended and bought it at the grocery store. My wife was on board. She got me going on that. They have a program right now. Call 1-866-800-SODA and mention KSL News Radio, and you'll get 4 weeks for free. 4 weeks, let me tell you what I did in 4 weeks with SOTA. I lost 18 pounds, and in 7 weeks, I lost 30 pounds. That's right. SOTA Diet Nutrition. Mention this radio station, KSL News Radio, 1-866-800-SODA for 4 free weeks.
More than 50 million Americans suffer from a form of mental illness.
And Utah isn't immune, with nearly 1 in 3 people dealing with anxiety, depression, or another form of mental illness.
But there's hope. We can all take action to keep ourselves and our loved ones safe.
That's why KSL has teamed with the Huntsman Mental Health Foundation to bring you hope and help you thrive.
It's Healthy Mind Matters.
Find out more at healthymindmatters.com.
When it's hot like this, air conditioners struggle to keep up. Parts are under more stress, and sometimes those parts fail. What's up, everybody? I'm Mike Wilson with Any Hour Services, and no one helps more homeowners maintain and repair their air conditioners than Any Hour Services. As a matter of fact, last year, over 32,000 homeowners called Any Hour Services for help maintaining and repairing their systems. Any Hour Services has over 100 HVAC technicians to help with everything from maintenance, repair, to installing a new system. This summer, there'll be a lot of people told they need to replace their air conditioner, and they'll wonder, do I really need to? If you're told you need to replace your air conditioner and you still have questions, Any Hour Services can give you a second opinion and let you know what options are available. Maybe it just needs a little maintenance or a small repair. Maybe it does need to be replaced, but if you don't feel good about being told you need to replace your air conditioner, don't ignore those feelings. Call Any Hour Services for help with air conditioner maintenance, repair, or to schedule a free second opinion. Google Any Hour Services or schedule online at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
You know, I used to think all money managers were the same until I spoke with Fisher Investments.
Really? How different are they?
Fisher's investment counselors are dedicated to service, not sales, keeping clients up to date on their portfolio.
Well, they probably just invest in a bunch of mutual funds like I do.
Nope. They build a tailored portfolio based on their clients' personal goals, helping them stay on track for a comfortable retirement.
Well, they must make commissions selling products.
Actually, Fisher doesn't sell any commission-based products. They're a fiduciary, and they believe that's a conflict.
Then they have some kind of complex fee structure.
Nope. Fisher has a simple, transparent fee that's a percentage of their client's portfolio. So they do better when their clients do better.
It sounds like Fisher really is different.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Fisher Investments. Clearly different wealth management. Learn more at fisherinvestments.com/different. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
If you're struggling with your mortgage, there's a free government program that offers expert one-on-one advice about your mortgage options. Call 1-888-995-HOPE or visit makinghomeaffordable.gov. Brought to you by the U.S. Treasury, HUD, and the Ad Council.
Everything to my back is dark.
High in the alpine wilderness.
Really ugly clouds coming over from the north.
A place
the ridgeline is imposing the escarpments, the drops.
where survival,
It's dark now. I have nothing.
is never certain.
This is not good.
My name's Dave Cawley, and I'm the host of a podcast called Uinta Triangle. It's about the disappearance of an Australian hiker named Eric.
Our conclusion and that of the sheriff is that the mountains have decided to keep him.
Come retrace Eric's footprints with me.
You have done this walk too, but this is your backyard. Did he really make a wrong turn, or did he decide that he was done?
He is not the first or last person to vanish in this remote region.
It was haunting to see the photos. I mean, really.
Find and follow the podcast series Uinta Triangle. That's Uinta, spelled U-I-N-T-A, Triangle, wherever you get your podcasts. All episodes out now.
And expanded Inside Sources.
So we just have a little bit of breaking news we want to bring you because President Donald Trump has finally weighed in on the Supreme Court decision on birthright citizenship, and this is what he wrote on Truth Social. The Supreme Court upheld birthright citizenship, which is too bad for our country, but we can easily make it up in Congress through legislation with the support of the president. That has now been determined during this process. No long and unwielding constitutional amendment is necessary. Congress should start today to work on ending expensive and unfair to our country birthright citizenship. They will have my complete and total support, President Donald J. Trump.
Yeah, he weighed in on all the opinions as they were coming out, and that was the one that we were waiting.
He
on,
waited
so.
for quite a while to weigh in on this one, but we did get a response from the president,
well,
so we wanted to bring that to you.
Well,
Utah Fire Watch.
Let's talk about Utah Fire Watch. Let's shift gears and talk about what's happening in Utah because we are still watching a lot of fires.
Oh my goodness. So the latest update that I can see on Utah Fire Info is that there have been 390 fires in the 2026 fire season. Almost 300,000 acres in Utah have burned. It's not even July.
It's not even July. Yeah. Across the state, communities continue to deal with fires or the potential for fires. Fireworks are mostly banned statewide, and now more cities are changing their plans for their 4th of July celebrations because of the fires.
Yeah, some are outright canceling their Independence Day in America 250 plans, largely due to the straining resources of the firefighting.
It was because of the fireworks, but it's because they're broke.
Firefighting.
Yeah, firefighting. Yeah. Some of these communities have spent their budget with firefighters. And we've had firefighters coming from all over the country. In fact, we had 3 firefighters that were killed in Utah just a couple days
ago. The
Utah border, and all 3 of them were from out of state. That was just the most tragic thing you could think of. And just we talked with a fire investigator about that, and just to hear what happens and how that happens, and even with the safety mechanisms that are in place, how awful that is.
So I do want to mention that one of the firefighters, Emily Barker, she ended up with a big profile on how much she loved fighting wildfires. So this was an article I saw in the Salt Lake Tribune, but originally published in the New York Times. So it was really interesting to me that they already had done something so touching about how much she loved what she was doing. And I wondered yesterday how many women were wildland firefighters, and the New York Times this article says only 10%. But I know that there's a GoFundMe account for Nick Hutcherson. He was another one killed. Both Nick and Barker were 27 years old. And then the third person Barker was 38 years old. And then there were 2 27-year-olds who were killed as well. But I just think it's remarkable, right, that we have those stories. And then at the same time, there's another story, and this one I saw with our friends over at Fox 13, but they said this. Utah firefighters face threats and abusive language following the fireworks ban. Are you freaking kidding me?
What's wrong with this picture? Yeah, I mean, you look at somebody like this woman that was killed and this article and the pictures of her. I mean, and she loved it. She loved what she did outdoors, and she talks about, helicopter plume and helicopters and sleeping in a dirt foxhole and just things that some of us would never do, and it was exciting to her. It was adventurous to her, and it was her profession that she wanted to do for forever. It was so sad.
Yeah. So I just have to ask, what makes somebody think they should call up a fire station and yell, quote, abusive language and slurs over the ban? So first of all, this happened at the South Weber Fire Department. They don't make the decisions. This was a decision made by the governor. And so they're harassing the firefighters. What in the world?
Yeah, as though they have anything to do with the bans. I mean,
well,
maybe they assume that the firefighting industry has gotten together and said, "Hey, you need to do something. You need to put the kibosh to fireworks." And I know it's important to a lot of people, but if you look at what are we? We're going to be 300,000 acres when we meet tomorrow.
Oh yeah, we
easily. And it's growing. And even though we've had a lull and it's been a little bit warmer, cooler, and wetter here along the Wasatch Front, Bantam, where these fires are going in the central and southern part of the state, is still hot, and it's going to be this weekend's going to be really, really hot, close to record hot.
Yeah. So one of the things I think it's important to remind our listeners that when we have the Cottonwood fire, and last I looked, it was 94,000 acres, and I'm guessing it's probably going to still increase. But there's an estimated at least 150 buildings destroyed in that fire. There are a number of buildings where they don't know the status because it's still too hot to go in there. And then this Beaver is the area down where that fire is. They have had to cancel all of their celebrations. So it's not just canceling the fireworks show, but they are canceling all of their celebrations. And this is why, as we mentioned, it's their emergency resources and personnel stretched so thin.
And that fire is spooky. That fire had
so
flames
big.
that were like
so
high and so hot and moved so quickly. We had one of the town authorities, council member or mayor, or somebody,
county commissioner,
talked to us, and she was such a cheerleader for the Beaver County
community.
and Beaver City area, and talked about what a great group it is and how beautiful it is. But on the other hand, what damage is happening.
That was
there.
County Commissioner Tammy Pearson. And we also found out they held a public meeting last night to give everybody updates. And one of the things that residents learned is that Utah's big tree, it's an iconic tree, has probably been destroyed in this fire. So this tree is something like 5 feet around. It's a ponderosa pine. It's 5 feet in width, 123 feet tall, one of the largest ponderosa pines in the state, and it's probably gone.
Ugh. Did you say a firefighter was challenged with his own job?
Oh, yeah. So there's another story about a firefighter volunteer with these wildland fires, and he has had, we don't know who his employer is, but he's been on social media and also on news media saying when he told his boss, I'm leaving to fight this fire, his boss said, then you won't have a job to come back to. So he is looking for the governor and state legislators to say, hey, the National Guard, when they're deployed, they have protections to keep their jobs safe for when they return. He wants the same for these firefighters. I think it makes sense.
Oh, I think you almost have to have that. You certainly do it for military deployments.
Yeah.
Why not do it for something similar?
I think it makes sense,
Public
and
service.
I am really confident that we'll see a bill file opened that way. But really, how outrageous to say, look, you can go fight these fires, but if you do, you won't have a job.
As though people do that for fun and adventure, like go helicopter skiing or something like that. No, it's different. They're fighting fire. They're saving lives. They're doing what they can to save communities and people and houses and dwellings. I mean, come on.
There are still some communities that are allowing limited numbers of personal fireworks. Most are not, but there are still professional fireworks shows that are going on. But if you remember, we had a conversation with Bountiful Mayor Kate Bradshaw, and she was telling us that they have a lot of activities within their community that are not pyrotechnical. They're not based on fire.
Right, yeah. So
there are fun things to do that don't involve fireworks and sparks.
Yeah, and I think the Freedom Festival has been using drones for years, or at least one of the.
I will let you know because I'm actually going this year for the first time in a really, really long time.
Yeah, it seems like a good idea. Also, you can't get. Well, you can. I guess anything can create a fire, but unlikely to have it done that way. Yeah, I mean, we're heading into the 4th of July. This is going to be the most dangerous fire potential weekend of the year, of the summer, unless the 24th is equally hot. But,
it's just really bad this year.
The firework ban has been controversial. It started with the governor. It went to some cities. Now we're blaming the firefighters, and people take that seriously. It's been a family tradition for a lot of people. I can kind of understand that. But, don't shoot the messenger. People are just concerned about fires, and people are risking their lives to put out fires.
Right,
so we
and
should support them.
I am most concerned with not burning down the state. So
seriously.
we will not be doing any personal fireworks at our house.
300,000 acres is way too much. Well, up next on the next hour of Inside Sources, we'll talk with our own representative, Mike Kennedy, about the ongoing fires. We'll also talk about ways the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is stepping up in ways to help people who are affected by the devastating earthquakes in Venezuela. You'll be happy to hear what's going on there as well. Stay with us.
KSL FM Midvale.
KSL Salt Lake City.
From the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios, this is KSL News Radio.
Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 11 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top story this hour. We've got breaking news. LeBron James says he will not be playing for the Lakers next year. ESPN now reporting he has informed his franchise that he will return for a 24th NBA season, but it will be with a different team. Which team that is still unclear. ESPN says the Golden State Warriors are interested. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. Supreme Court has blocked President Trump's executive order on birthright citizenship. ABC News national correspondent Stephen Portnoy has more from Washington.
The 6-3 decision reaffirms the Supreme Court's 1898 ruling that except for the children of ambassadors, all people born in the U.S. are citizens under the 14th Amendment. Chief Justice John Roberts was joined in his opinion by fellow conservative Amy Coney Barrett and the court's 3 liberal justices, while Trump appointee Brett Kavanaugh said he agreed with the outcome of the case. The court's 3 other conservatives, Clarence Thomas, Samuel Alito, and Neil Gorsuch, dissented.
In local news, firefighters are working around the clock to contain fires burning around the state, and several large fires are nearly there. KSL News Radio's Brianna Willis reports.
The Wild Goose Fire is threatening the town of Scipio, and residents are currently in a ready status to evacuate while containment is at 6%, according to a statement made by fire officials this morning. Town members can attend a meeting at the Scipio Senior Center at 6 p.m. today for more information. 2 other large wildfires, including Babylon and Snyder Fire, are over 30,000 acres and at 0% containment. However, after several days of fighting, both the Sawmill Fire and Iron Fires are getting closer to containment at 82 and 95%. Brianna Willis, KSL News Radio.
Taking a look at your money at this moment, the markets are all up. The Dow Jones is up 194 points. That's nearly 0.4%. The S&P 500 is up 56 points. That's 0.75%. And the NASDAQ is up 356 points. That's 1.38%. Coming up, cool today, hot next week. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:02.
A reminder about the simplest way to get updated for your day.
Hit your KSL preset when you jump in the car, and we'll take care of the rest.
Hear key news updates and traffic reports.
Andy and Amanda from 5 to 9 in your car.
KSL News Radio at 102.7 FM.
As America celebrates 250 years of innovation and hard work, Alsco Uniforms is proud to be part of Utah's story, serving local businesses since 1895. For more than 135 years, they've helped companies focus on what they do best, while Alsco Uniforms handles the laundry. From uniforms to linens to mats, towels, and safety supplies, they keep businesses clean, professional, and running strong. Rooted in Utah, built on service, ready for the next generation. Alsco Uniforms, proud to support America 250 and the businesses that keep it moving. Visit alsco.com.
There's no doubt about it. This is the time of year when we all start focusing on that perfectly grilled steak. Now, some of us are pretty good. Some of us are just okay at doing that ourselves in the backyard. If you're really looking for that perfection in steaks, it's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. And now, a lot of graduation parties are going on, special events, birthdays, you name it. It's time for you to make that reservation at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse. Now, obviously, we talk about steaks and how wonderful they are there, but they have so much more. The seafood, the poultry dishes, the side dishes, the desserts, and it's served to perfection. We have 2 locations. There's Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in Hotel Park City, and also Ruth's Chris Steakhouse in the heart of downtown Salt Lake City at 275 Southwest Temple. It's the perfect steak, and it's waiting for you now at Ruth's Chris Steakhouse.
Is the volatility of the stock market driving you crazy? Is your retirement account sinking, yet you're getting older? and you're starting to worry about, will I have enough for retirement? What about the money in the bank? These banks pay nothing these days. How do we get growth to get to retirement account? It's simple. Move into gold and silver. Want to know how to do it? Listen to my show, Striking Gold, with me, Kenny Michaels.
Now on Saturday at 5 p.m.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. You deserve to love where you bank. Here's Ricky Meese.
Nice and quiet drive on the Valley freeways in Salt Lake County, but in Summit County, we've had delays northbound on Highway 40 trying to connect to the I-80 junction at Silver Summit. If you're in Summit County, add some extra travel time to your drive there. Spring has blossomed in Box Elder County. History, recreation, and wildlife, and excellent dining and shopping await you. Learn more at visitboxeldercounty.com. Produced in cooperation with the Utah Office of Tourism. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
It's going to be cloudy today and stay mostly in the 60s and 70s, but things are going to heat up through the weekend with temperatures hitting high 90s by next Monday. Right now, though, it's about 68 degrees and mostly cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
Utah Fire Watch.
Well, Utah's wildfires are off to a fast start, burning hundreds of thousands, almost 300,000 acres around the state. At least 150 structures have so far been destroyed, Holly.
And Utah Fire Watch right now, we have joining us on Inside Sources to talk about these fires is Representative Mike Kennedy. Thanks for joining us, Representative.
Thanks for having me on, Holly. I'm really sad that we have to talk about these terrible fires, but it's a really important topic, obviously.
It is. And I wonder if we can just start with the importance of federal and state agencies working together. Can you talk to us about that?
Absolutely. I think that communication is a big part of this, making sure that we are all hands on deck. Federal agencies as well as county, cities, and our people are all working together. And that's one of the reasons why the Forest Service moving to the state of Utah is a really important Trump administration effort to try to improve that coordination. I'm very supportive of that. The people that are closest to land should manage it. We need to make sure that these federal agencies are responsive and responsible, and that bringing them to Utah is going to enhance that likelihood.
Representative, there seem to be a lot of fires right now in the West, maybe like out of control. Do you think that there's much discussion about that in D.C.? Are we getting some attention from the people you're talking to there?
There's certainly, in theory, a lot of people that in general concept understand it, but you and I and our constituents, our citizens, are living it. We're breathing the filthy air. We're watching the fires destroy our structures, and it's hard to bring that message to people who are living in a for example, in Washington, D.C., it's a water-rich area. We have rain on a regular basis, very humid out here. And many of the places, my Congress friends and on both sides of the aisle, they live in places that are not as dry as we experience in the state of Utah. So trying to explain that, communicate that is an effort of all of my congressional colleagues, Senate and House, to make sure that they understand the compelling nature of managing our forests, that we need to do our best to prepare for these things. And Fix Our Forest Act is something that's doing that, but we can't get it moving forward on the Senate side. So there are ways that we can do it, but a lot of people out here don't necessarily get the compelling issue it is for us in Utah.
I think they just need to see some of the pictures, Representative, because they're apocalyptic. They are wild. So I just want to ask one more question about federal and state agencies, but really specifically about funding. Can you tell us how these wildfires, these wildland fires, how the funding to support them happens?
Most of that's going to be the state legislature, Holly, and you understand that the state legislature has primary responsibility for this. But when it comes to our forests, that the BLM is most of this is happening on federal land, anyways. So the BLM and Forest Service are going to be implicated, and we certainly are looking for emergency funds with these disasters that are happening, so that we can make sure we have the resources to fight these fires in an effective fashion. So yes, there are ways for us to leverage our federal relations and making sure that money is coming in so we can fight these fires effectively.
And does that involve FEMA as well?
Yes, definitely. And I want to pay due credence to these 3 dead firefighters and the 2 injured firefighters. I'll just say to us that should drive home, and God bless these people for their efforts, the ones that continue to fight, and in the case of Emily and Nick and Sydney, for their willingness to give their lives to try to support us in the state of Utah. We just have a great deal of respect for them, and want to make sure that we're doing our best to support our firefighters, living and dead.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was Representative Mike Kennedy. And he mentioned the 3 firefighters who died this weekend. It is also the 13th anniversary today of the Granite Mountain Hotshots who were killed in the Yarnell Hill fire in Arizona. If you remember that story, there were 19 members of the Granite Mountain Hotshots who died in a burnover that was what just happened this weekend to the 3.
Yeah, a burnover is where apparently the fire gets over you and then you're literally trapped by it. Usually you're staying on the front line, but you get too close to where the wind can take it in a different direction, and pretty soon you're surrounded by it. And the gentleman we had on the other day from it was a retired firefighter who now does some consulting, talked about this sheet that they wear, this protective suit.
And even then,
made it sound like you're like a baked potato, but at least it shields you from the heat. But
from some,
you've got to get oxygen in there too.
But
and that's the hard part.
Also, these fires burn really, really hot.
Yeah.
So I do want to say he's talking about Representative Kennedy talked about some of the expensive nature of fighting these fires, and I'll say this. So the state forester, Jamie Barnes, said, first of all, this season is unlike anything Utah firefighters have seen before. And she said, look, this is a couple of days ago when we had only had 240,000 acres burned. Now we're 60,000 more than that. But Barnes is guessing it's more than $20 million right now. But we'll see. But one of the things that people should know, if you start a fire, you're going to be on the hook for costs.
Yeah, and Utah law, even the state law, has provision for that. Even if it's reckless, like you just didn't put out a fire, you just were careless about your campfire. You threw a cigarette out of the window. You did something that you weren't intentionally starting the fire, but you recklessly caused a fire. If you're charged with that, and if you're convicted of that, you could be on the hook to pay for the mitigation. You could be on the hook to pay for the people that came out. And obviously, some people, there's no way you could afford it.
Right.
But you got to pay something because you're the one that created the problem. And you're the one that put people at risk, put lives at risk, put people out there in the field, taking them away from their jobs and family. And the resources, like we talked about, have depleted some cities' budgets to the point where they're not even having 4th of July celebrations.
Right. I want to note this. The state has an attorney assigned to recover wildfire costs. They have started charging people. For example, they charged the man who allegedly started the fire at Memory Grove Park. And I'll say this, Salt Lake County Mayor Jenny Wilson, besides the fact of having a personal fireworks ban, she's asking people to please report people who are using fireworks. The first offense, $1,000 fine.
Yeah, as it should
be.
Like,
they're serious. We're serious this year, people.
You got to start budgeting for this because we can't just afford that. I mean, if you recall what happened with California wildfires a couple of years ago, it about broke their utilities.
There's
their
so
budget,
right, and like there's so many costs not even just directly associated with it, but you just mentioned utilities, right? So we know Rocky Mountain Power's had to shut power off, but if their lines are damaged, if their poles are damaged, right, all of that is a cost as well. So it's a lot, and people are really serious about it this year, and we should be serious about it every year.
You know, it hits us close home. We had a fire in the Ogden Valley. I mean, my wife and I are looking up in the hills up there, Middle Fork, a week ago.
Oh my goodness!
And there was a fire up there, and it got pretty significant. We were watching it, a lot of smoke. I mean, you've been able to see smoke from where you are.
Oh yeah.
There's almost always some fire on Timpanogos. It seems like every year, sometime. But it's everywhere. You can't avoid it, no matter where you, and you can't avoid it just by walking out and seeing the air.
So, look, this is, again, just really critical that we be responsible, that we pay careful attention. I would say, please don't go target shooting. Please check your chains. Make sure they're not bouncing off of the concrete or the asphalt. And just we're doing some stuff in our garden with putting some cattle grading actually over our garden beds to make this. It's really cool. But just doing the metal grinding, it was like, oh, that was clear sparks. We will not be doing that anywhere out in the wild. So
I got to ask you about that during the break.
So, look,
metal grinding. Holly, you're going to hurt yourself.
I made my daughter did it, and then my husband did it. So,
Good.
Look, please be careful out there. Please be careful. When we come back, there are aid groups working in Venezuela that say the country's fragile healthcare system might not be able to keep up with everything that's happened since the recent deadly earthquakes. I think that's probably an understatement. We're going to talk about that when we come back next.
As we celebrate America 250, KSL presents Utah Cornerstones, honoring the businesses that built our past and continue to shape our future.
America wasn't built by chance. It was built by grit, innovation, and the right tools in hard-working hands. For over a century, Industrial Supply has proudly supplied those who build Utah and beyond. Family-owned Utah business since 1916. That's 110 years contributing to Utah heritage. Industrial Supply has grown into one of the largest industrial distributors in the Intermountain West, with locations across 5 states, supplying safety and tooling solutions across construction, mining, manufacturing, and more. Industrial Supply is more than just a supplier. They have the local roots, the regional scale, and the product expertise to keep operations informed and optimized. Because they're not just a part of the job, they're part of the legacy of building America.
Utah Cornerstones on KSL News Radio.
This is Colin Keary from the New Millennium Group. Have you ever had a question for your financial advisor only to find out that the next available appointment is months away? At New Millennium Group, we believe that financial advice should never be limited to once-a-year review meetings. Life happens every single day. Markets change, retirement questions come up, family situations evolve, and when they do, you deserve answers. That's why we pride ourselves at the New Millennium Group on being accessible when our clients need us most. Whether you're wondering about your investments or a major life decision, our team is here to help provide guidance. We're not interested in being the firm you hear from once a year. We want to be your trusted resource throughout your entire retirement journey. If you're looking for a financial team that values relationships, communication, and responsiveness, we'd love to meet you. Give us a call today at 888-999-6370. That's 888-999-6370, or visit us at utahsfinancialplanner.com.
Don't miss out on KSL's newest podcast, the KSL News Daily, hosted by veteran journalist Maria Chaleos. She'll cover the biggest local and national stories to get you informed and out the door, with trusted reporting that deep dives on important stories that matter to Utahns. A fresh take on the news you can take on the go. Find KSL News Daily online at kslpodcast.com, on the KSL News Radio app, or anywhere you listen to podcasts.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group, and I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney, and the truth is I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-881-8686. That's 800-881-8686. 800-881-8686.
I was in foot pain for 20 years, trying to give it relief, buying all these different insoles. Drugstore insoles, custom insoles. I spent thousands of dollars. I bought all these products, and not a single one worked. I really, truly needed to have relief in my feet. And the Good Feet Arch supports were what gave me the relief I needed.
For over 20 years, we've been helping people like Teresa actually live the life they love without their feet getting in the way.
They wanted to make sure that I got something that my feet felt good in, not somebody else's feet. I love the fact that I can wear these arch supports in all my shoes. I have boots, I have cowboy boots, I have running shoes, I have walking shoes, I have flat shoes, I have heels. It makes me so happy. If you ask my husband, he will crack up because there is no store I would rather go in than a shoe store. I'm Teresa, and that's my Good Feet story.
See what we can do for you with a free personalized arch support fitting at the Good Feet store.
We have locations in Farmington, Riverton, and Sandy.
Got an expensive AC replacement or repair quote? Get a free second opinion with Vyrock Heating and Cooling. Call or text 801-306-8360 or visit VyrockAir.com. VAIRockair.com.
My name is Tom.
My name is Cindy.
We give to and volunteer with United Way at our community free health clinic.
We know our time and money are going to the right places.
We don't just wear the shirt.
We live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Let me ask you a question. You have a best friend? How big would it shock you if somebody told you that your best friend just killed somebody?
911, what's your emergency?
Someone on the other line said they kidnapped my son and they're demanding $500,000.
I've asked myself so many times, what in the world happened?
Ransom is available now. Listen at ransompodcast.com or wherever you get your podcasts.
And expanded Inside Sources. Inside Sources.
The death toll in Venezuela has climbed to more than 1,700 following twin powerful earthquakes last Wednesday.
And there are also more than 5,000 people just injured, and responders are still undertaking rescue operations, searching for people thought to be under the rubble still.
Look, I have to add this. There are tens of thousands reported missing. So that is really demoralizing and depressing. But ABC News Chief International Correspondent James Longman is in Venezuela with more.
Diana managed to keep her 18-day-old son Juan David alive for 30 hours under the rubble. Rescuers managed to get water to Juan David by sliding a straw through a pipe down through the rubble. The one who gave me the strength not to fall into despair, she says, was my son. I kept saying, as long as he was alive, I was going to be alive. When the earthquake hit, their 8th-floor apartment fell out from beneath their feet. She had Juan David on her chest as the building fell around her.
That's so scary.
Yeah, that's
But
just
good
crazy.
news, right, that they were able to pull survivors out of the wreckage.
Yeah, and humanitarian groups around the world are now stepping up to help the people in Venezuela, including the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And joining us now is Church News reporter Amy Kobe. Amy, tell us about what's going on.
Yes.
First of all, it's good to see you, by
Good
the
to
way.
see you, too. Yes, a lot of opportunities there because the Associated Press reports 770 buildings collapsed. And mostly in that northern region there on the coast, where a lot of those buildings, as we understand it, they have building codes, but they weren't maybe followed as well as
Sure.
they could have been.
That's a nice way to say
That's
it.
a nice way of saying it. And so the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints stepped in, along with other organizations and governments there in Venezuela, immediately. It was immediate. And members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, it's not a small amount of people and missionaries. There are 179,000 members of the church, many of them victims in this as well, and also searching for loved ones and family members. I had an email exchange with one of the Area 70 who is working there in that Venezuela area, part of the Caribbean area of the church. But he said that they are just kind of shocked by the news, but also having hope that they can react and that they can act to help people. So that right now, what that action looks like is immediate needs, shelters, getting beds, blankets, pillows, things like that, just to shelters. Many meeting houses of the church that are standing and are safe are acting as some of those temporary shelters. And then also food, water, emergency supplies, just kind of hygiene kits, everything. I mean, imagine you've lost there's no way you can get into your home at this point. And so what are those essential items to just keep you alive? And then over the next few months, as those rescue operations turn into more of a recovery, the church will also be there. And speaking personally, as I was a missionary just in a small area in Southern California where there was a small flash flood, and we worked there for months following that.
Wow.
Missionaries we were on the ground in our yellow helping hands t-shirts. And so when something like this happens, the church is often the first to jump into action and the last to just stick around and keep going to help our neighbors and our friends in need.
Yeah, Amy, I'm always amazed at the church's response and its level of organization.
Yeah.
I mean, the fact that this earthquake isn't a week old, and we're already seeing response, we're already seeing assistance, we're already seeing that they recognize, hey, what did you say? Beds, blankets, pillow. I mean, things like that, and food items. I mean, can you just tell us about that?
Part of the what I've heard is there are and reported on by other news organizations as well. Part of the recovery efforts that have been so difficult is because you have a country that is unstable politically right now, for lots of reasons, right? We don't need to go into all of those, but the church and its leadership is stable, and humanitarian organizations are still the same, and so all of those things are in place. No matter what happens politically or economically, there are still people who are good people everywhere who are acting in the name of Jesus Christ to help others. And so, yes, the organization of the church is huge. And we've talked about this before. The church works with other organizations. This is not the first time they've worked in Venezuela. They have relationships with organizations there so that they can say, hey, we have this. If we fund this, could you get volunteers? Could we help you? Could we already give you the support that we have? You know, we can fund this. What can you do on the ground? And then we do have a missionary force. These are missionaries that are within that country. So there's no American missionaries in Venezuela, but there are missionaries called within their home country, just like if a missionary here got called to, San Diego, but they are called within their country. And that is a large volunteer force that is acting young, able, willing to jump in and just be ready to do whatever they're asked and called to do.
One of the organizations that's on the ground, in addition to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is World Central Kitchen, and I've talked about them before because they're so awesome actually at getting there immediately, and they're saying, look, we know you need food.
Yep.
And, I've read these stories about people having to try and dig through rubble with their hands because they don't have the big equipment. And there are some, miracle stories about people still surviving. But at this point, most of the people who were trapped are probably no longer living. And so then that brings another whole host of problems, including potential water contamination, health issues, disease being spread. And so one of the things that I love about people who have a mission to help is that they know that the needs are immediate and, as you've already mentioned, long-lasting.
Long-lasting. The church also has a lot of resources in natural disasters and things like this to help with the mental health afterward. A lot of programs and therapists that go in with LDS Family Services, and they will just be there to talk about, hey, this was real. The trauma and that lasting damage even on your psyche and on your body is real, and that is part of the church's response as well in the coming months and years that they'll be on the ground. Right now, as I understand it from some of those people I'm emailing back and forth and talking to, they're still struggling to get into those hardest hit areas because of transportation and some of those things. So it's going to be a big, long process, but there is hope as well. There is a lot of hope that the Lord will bless them, that they also can rise and have good experiences through this and help others that are in need. It's an opportunity to serve others, and they see it that way.
You mentioned that the church works with other aid organizations. Do you know whether or not and to what extent they're getting support from the local communities or the local government?
I can't.
I know that the government there is in disarray, and so maybe they can't rely on that. But I imagine there have been some cities or local municipalities that are reaching out and trying to get some help.
From what I understand, it's local governments and people. So it's maybe a bishop talking to his mayor and some things like that, a stake president who is working with the people that he knows. that's happening. Beyond that, I'm not aware of anything. I'm sure that some of those conversations are in the works, but I haven't been made aware of the details.
Hey, can you stick around?
Absolutely.
We don't get Amy Kobe very
Let's
often.
talk
So
more
when we do
about some positive stories.
Okay, let's do that. Let's do that after the break. So next up on Inside Sources, Amy Kobe is going to stick around because we paid her, and for
We
a
did not.
conversation for more volunteers for American 250. We'll be right back.
It's 11:29 at KSL News Radio. I'm Cameron Elliott. KSL's top national story this hour from ABC News. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court has allowed states to ban transgender women and girls from playing on sports teams for women and girls. The cases brought before the court dealt with athletes from West Virginia and Idaho, but in today's ruling, the court's conservative majority has paved the way for dozens of Republican-led states to keep similar bans on transgender athletes. More from ABC's Devin Dwyer.
A 15-year-old, the only known openly transgender student and athlete in the state of West Virginia, bravely brought this case to the Supreme Court, insisting that she had an equal right to play with the girls. But the Supreme Court today, 6-3 decision written by Justice Brett Kavanaugh, said states, school districts can draw lines based on biological sex when it comes to sports teams in schools.
Other national stories KSL is following. Republican Congressman Tom Keene Jr. of New Jersey is back in Washington after months of absence. Keene didn't disclose publicly the details of why he was missing in Congress, only saying it was a medical issue. But today on the House floor, Keene said he was hospitalized for depression.
As the over 48 million of my fellow Americans being treated for this illness have come to discover, there is no timeline for healing. There is no timeline for recovery. Only the work of getting better, one day at a time.
Taking a look at your money at this moment, we've got green across the board. The Dow Jones is up 185 points. That's 0.3%. The S&P 500 is 52 points. That's 0.7%. And the NASDAQ is up 335. That is 1.3%. Coming up, we're gearing up for a hot Independence Day. KSL weather is next. KSL News Time, 11:31.
The sources where we get our news matters.
When you listen to Utah's Morning News, we want you to feel the stories are important to you and trustworthy. This is Amanda Dixon.
And I'm Andy Farnsworth. Join us weekday mornings on KSL News Radio.
The KSL News Radio movie show comes to My Hearing Centers Friday from 10 to 1. But first, discover what My Hearing Centers can do for you. My Hearing Centers uses advanced technology to diagnose and treat hearing loss. These comprehensive evaluations determine the best treatment options. Then enjoy lifetime support with regular check-ins, cleaning, and maintenance. Call My Hearing Centers at 801-701-1629. 801-701-1629 for more details. My Hearing Centers has offices from Ogden to St. George.
Let's face it, it's time to give your finances a serious glow up. Hi, I'm Susan Spears, a certified public accountant and host of the all-new podcast, Talk to Your CPA. Think of this as your ultimate money guide, packed with actionable tips for every stage of life. Starting a family, college, a business, retirement. We'll cover it all and call on a deep bench of money experts to share their best strategies. And when I switch into CPA mode, we'll cut through the jargon to uncover hidden tax breaks or financial nuggets that might work for you, like special deductions for tax earners, tax wins at age 65, and benefits when you buy a new car, or just how to stretch your dollar. The first episode drops soon, so subscribe to Talk to Your CPA on your favorite podcast platform today. Because true financial freedom isn't about ditching your daily latte. It's about uncovering hidden hacks to launch a financial glow-up that keeps on glowing.
Talk to Your CPA is proudly powered by the Utah Association of CPAs.
Hi, I'm Chuck McDowell, the timeshare cancellation guy and founder of Wesley Financial Group. And I want to set the record straight. I am not an attorney. I've never wanted to be an attorney. And the truth is, I really don't even like attorneys. If I sound like an attorney, I'll apologize. But what I've learned in my 15 years in the timeshare cancellation business is you don't need to be an attorney to get folks out of their timeshare. After 15 years and over 50,000 cancellations, I can tell you with confidence, we know how to get you out of your timeshare. Call us today and we'll send you our timeshare exit guide absolutely free with all your options for cancellation. Attorneys, this was meant to be funny, so please Don't sue me, especially my friend Kenneth from Black River Falls, Wisconsin.
Call now for your free timeshare exit info kit. 800-881-8686. That's 800-881-8686. 800-881-8686.
Traffic and weather together brought to you by UCCU. Learn how to save more this summer at UCCU.com. Here's Ricky Meese.
Nice and quiet drive on the Valley freeways, but delays continue in Summit County. This is northbound Highway 40 to get to I-80. You've got about 2 to 3 miles of solid backups there at that junction in Silver Summit. So if you're traveling through Summit County and you're taking Highway 40, be prepared for those backups. Ready to upgrade your kitchen? Visit one of Bedrock Quartz modern showrooms or request a quote of bedrockquartz.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
Today's going to be partly cloudy with highs around the 80s. Eastern and southeastern Utah will have increased fire danger with low humidity and high winds. Right now, though, it's 70 degrees and partly cloudy downtown. I'm Cameron Elliott from the KSL Common Spirit Health Studios. Listen online at kslnewsradio.com. We're Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
The all-new Inside Sources. Your inside access to the people and policies shaping Utah's future. Here are Greg Skordas and Holly Richardson on KSL News Radio.
You know, our country has been built on principles of service, including volunteering.
So, what better way to celebrate our country's 250th birthday than with volunteering?
The Church News' Amy Kobabe is going to stay with us here in studio with more on how volunteers are answering the calls right here in our own country with respect to our country's anniversary, which is just days away.
It's just days away. I feel like we need some patriotic music to go along with this segment.
Our producer's working on that. Yeah, we'll get you that.
But I love this. I spoke about this with Rosie Rios, who is the chair of the America 250 Commission, former treasurer of the United States. She said that service is an important part of the celebration this year. She said service is how our country was founded. If you think about the patriots who served in the Revolutionary War, think about all the veterans who have risked their lives on our behalf for us to enjoy the freedoms that we have today. And so she threw down the gauntlet, and part of the America 250 celebration is an invitation to be a part of the largest volunteer effort in United States history. And so as part of this, I did a longer article for the Church News about the efforts that are happening, and it is so inspiring. And I had to cut so many things out. You know how that goes. You get so many responses and people who are doing some amazing things. But I loved also, you have big projects. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is donating 250 truckloads of food to food banks across the country. At each one of those, you have volunteers that are at the doors welcoming those food donations, distributing them out to smaller food banks and things like that. But then you have things like in Idaho. They wanted to do 250,000 before the 4th of July. They reached that goal.
250,000 what? Sorry.
Service projects.
Service projects.
Or service, some sort of service act.
Wow.
And so that included things like one submission said he put in a ramp for his brother-in-law who is going through cancer treatment so that they can make it out of the house and go to that treatment every day without having to have more people come and help them. One woman from Caldwell, Idaho, where it gets really cold, said that at 91 years old, she wanted to knit hats for children that are underserved. She knitted 20 hats and gave them to children in a school clothing closet. She said the children didn't have anything warm to put on their head, and this will help the children keep warm. So you have large events, big service projects. You have small little acts of service by a 91-year-old woman in a small town who sees a need for children to stay warm walking home from school and says, I can do something about that. I can knit.
It reminds me of the Martin Luther King Jr. quote where he said, anybody can be great because anybody can serve.
Yeah.
right? Everybody can be great because everybody can serve.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about America Serves and Just Serve, because both of them, they seem to be going together.
Yes. So Just Serve is one of the partner organizations with America Serves. So America Serves is part of the America 250 Commission. It's part of the big celebration, and they have on their website this invitation to serve. And so along with Just Serve, you have I should have pulled it up, all the organizations that you could think of that are providing service opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
United Way.
Oh, yeah.
All of these organizations are saying, hey, we'll make things available. If people want to come serve, come to our website. We'll show you how, and we'll give you opportunities. And so Just Serve is a great place to do that because it's in your own community. You look up, you can type in your zip code and say, I want to do something within 10 miles of my house. Okay, here's the opportunity. And these might not necessarily say this is for America's 250th. It's just a need. Right. It's socks at the homeless shelter that are honestly all the time showing up there in our local area. And if you can do that, that counts. Mm-hmm. That is part of the America 250 celebration. And I loved one of the woman I spoke to, who is a Just Serve specialist in Idaho, that kind of saw this as, hey, Idaho can be a really great place where we take this on. This is a service-oriented community, and we can do that. She said that she was also just inspired by how many people got involved. She herself has Native American heritage, and she said that she came into it feeling a little conflicted about this celebration. As she looks back on her own family heritage, she wasn't quite sure how to feel about it. And then she saw the service happen. She saw all of these projects and photos and smiling pictures and people doing this, and said, this is a part of America's future. And she feels hopeful about America's future because of the people who are doing things every day that count as serving someone else.
And Utahns and Latter-day Saints probably serve and volunteer. I don't even need to know the stats more than anybody. I imagine America Serves was pretty tickled to be contacted by the Utah and Idaho.
Very tickled to be a part of that. And it just makes sense. They go hand in hand. Just Serve is international, but it started here in the United States. Mm-hmm. And it's in every community. There are hundreds of Just Serve cities and Just Serve clubs at local high schools, kids that are getting involved in this. So yes, it is. I feel bad as a church news reporter. It is members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, but it's not limited to that. And service is a big part of being a disciple of Jesus Christ, but it's something that everyone, as part of the America 250 celebration, can be proud of.
Yeah, I just pulled up justserve.org to look at some projects. There's Feed Homeless Youth, Provide and Serve Dinner on July 2nd, right? And then I said America Serves, but it's actually America Gives. I feel bad.
Thank you.
But they, on their homepage, over 13 million hours volunteered.
And those are just the ones that people have submitted.
That have reported.
Yes.
That's amazing, right? That's really amazing. And I think it's one of the things that really can bind communities together, neighborhoods, families, is this opportunity to serve. I think sometimes we underestimate the power of service.
Yeah. Yeah. And you might think, oh, I just knitted 21 little hats. That's it. But
those are 21 people who have warm heads because of you.
Who have warm heads because of you. And you multiply that, and slowly but consistently you get 13 million plus hours volunteered. And that's just within the first 6 months of the year. Yeah. So it's going to be really inspiring. I'll come back. Let's do it again in December and talk about all the projects we've seen. And you had asked earlier a couple of weeks ago about every state getting those
the food donations.
And they went to Alaska, they went to Hawaii, and made that happen. And so and volunteers were there to accept that as well, and we're so happy to receive it in on the Big Island and in Alaska, where it's really hard.
It's a little harder to get it there than to drive it to West Jordan.
Right. We've got less than a minute, but for our listeners who want to be part of our conversation in December, how can they find out more about volunteering and getting involved in projects?
JustServe.org or just America250.org, America Gives. If you just look up, or if you just decide, hey, here's something I can do.
Yeah.
You see someone on the side of the road that needs help.
Yeah.
That is service. That counts and that matters. Makes a difference.
I have a neighbor, and I am positive she has never reported these hours, but she will put together care kits for people who are homeless that she carries in her car during the winter. And then if she sees somebody, she just has a kit. It's there, it's ready, and she hands it to them. And it's got hand warmers and a hat and socks and, even just some quick energy foods. And she just keeps them in her car, and she does it all on her own. So thanks again for joining us, Amy. That's Amy Kobig, reporter with the Church News, but awesome individual that we love having on our show.
Thank you.
All right, coming up on Inside Sources, I want to have a conversation about political differences and how we handle it. You should go and serve. We're going to have a whole special town hall tomorrow on this very topic. So we're going to do a little bit of a preview. Stay with us.
Hi, it's Greg Skordas. What if I told you that 4 weeks from now, everything can feel different, including your energy, your weight, and the way your clothes fit? That's what Soda Dynamic Diet did for me, and that's what it will do for you. My first 4 weeks with Soda, I lost 18 pounds. After 7 weeks, I'd lost 30 pounds. Right now, listeners can get 4 weeks free when they call 866-800-SOTA and mention KSL Radio. Soda Diet and Nutrition teaches you how to let go of the weight and keep it off for a lifetime with no shots, no pills, just real food, expert guidance, and habits that last. Weight loss medications can cost a lot, and for many people, the bill does not end. Soda is different. Degreed nutritionists help you get the root cause of your challenges, guide you one-on-one, and teach you lifelong habits so that you can lose the weight without signing up for a lifetime bill. Get 4 weeks free when you call 866-800-SODA and mention KSL Radio. SOTA is, say it with me, state of the art.
You trust us for news and information in your car. Now trust us at home. KSL News Radio has you covered, keeping you informed on the latest breaking news, weather, traffic, sports, and more. Listen on your Amazon Echo or Google Home device. Just say, Alexa, open KSL News Radio. Or listen on the KSL News Radio Listen app. Text the word app to 57500. KSL News Radio. We have you covered.
Are you an adult with uncontrolled moderate to severe Crohn's disease symptoms and still packing a backup bag of clothes? Just in case? Skyrizi Risankizumab Riza can help you take control of your Crohn's. Feel significant symptom relief, including less abdominal pain and fewer bowel movements at 4 weeks. Plus, Skyrizi is proven to help people achieve remission and visibly improve damage of the intestinal lining. Individual results may vary. Skyrizi is a prescription injection medicine. Don't use if allergic to Skyrizi. Serious allergic reactions, increased infections, or lower ability to fight them may occur. Before treatment, get checked for infections and tuberculosis. Tell your doctor about any flu-like symptoms or vaccines. Liver problems leading to hospitalization may occur when treated for Crohn's. Ready to take control of your Crohn's? Ask your doctor about Skyrizi, the #1 prescribed biologic in Crohn's disease.
Control is everything to me.
Learn more at skyrizi.com or call 1-866-SKYRIZI.
This is Derek Miller speaking on business. For 160 years, PNC Bank has built its reputation on strong client relationships and personalized financial guidance. By combining local expertise with national resources, they help businesses, families, and communities achieve their goals. Regional President Gavin Young joins us with more.
At PNC, our strength lies in local relationships and delivery backed by the resources of one of the country's largest banks. That means our local clients get the best of both worlds. Powerful big bank capabilities delivered by people who understand Utah's dynamic businesses, the local economy, and our community. Our team doesn't just work here, they live and raise their families here, and like you, they are invested in the success of our region. We're here for the long term. In fact, we're excited to soon open our new corporate office in downtown Salt Lake City, another step in our continued investment in Utah's growth and future. At PNC, we believe the smartest banking is also the most consistent and dependable. That's why we're proud to be brilliantly boring, focused on doing the right things the right way every day. Learn more at pnc.com.
As Utah continues to grow, PNC Bank remains committed to being a trusted partner in that progress. Their focus on people, relationships, and community investment is helping strengthen the connections that move Utah forward. I'm Derek Miller with the Salt Lake Chamber, speaking on business.
Getting help with electrical repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
911, tell me exactly what happened.
My son and his wife and their 2 children haven't responded.
Susan Powell disappeared on a snowy morning in 2009.
Your wife is missing, Josh.
Yeah, but I've already...
And you want to think about it for a couple of days?
The podcast, Cold, has gone deep on these kinds of stories.
I'd had this overwhelming feeling that he had done something to her already.
Clearly, something happened on that couch because he cleaned it.
Find and follow Cold wherever you get your podcasts.
My name is Dale Pazinski. I volunteer with United Way to help the homeless in my community learn computer skills and build a basic resume. I don't just wear the shirt, I live it.
Give, advocate, volunteer, Live United. Go to liveunited.org. Brought to you by United Way and the Ad Council.
Inside Sources.
So one of the taboo topics, of course, is don't talk about politics or religion. So why politics? Well, I mean, come on. It's super divisive. It can be isolating, but I don't think it should.
No, it really shouldn't. And even in a place like Utah, where a lot of people belong to the same political party, there's diversity in terms of political takes and opinions and issues, even within that party.
Yeah, for sure. I'm a prime example.
Yep.
So what can we do to make sure our political differences don't ruin our relationships? There's a lot, actually, and I think, Amy, the conversation we just had with Amy Kobeg about service, I think that is one really, really good way, right? I mean, it's one of the ways where, like, barriers come down, because when you're united and helping, there's really something powerful about that.
Yeah, and we're going to enjoy part of that tomorrow on this very show, aren't we?
We are.
Right.
We are, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But I also wanted to talk about an article. This was just published in the Deseret News. Political differences shouldn't break our circles, and I think that's right. So the author, her name is Stephanie Morgan, and she starts by saying, in our lives we have circles of people. You have a church circle, you have a gym circle, you have a kids' soccer team circle. The defining characteristic of these circles is having something in common, right? So whether you're getting together to gripe about leg day, or you're cheering for the same little sports team that your kids are on, but what she's writing is that politics divides us in ways that some of these other things don't divide us, and it doesn't need to be that way.
Yeah, and I think that another thing people should be thinking about is getting into some of these circles and enjoying these circles with family or politics. And even if you have disagreements or sort of, I don't know, it seems like there is so much divisiveness right now in this country. But if you sit down with people, even with different points of view, and learn to, like our governor says, disagree better, you can get a lot. I think it was Gary Herbert that talked to us once about what he does, with the whole, I don't like your opinion, but I want to hear more about it,
Yeah, that's right. And he said, I think if I remember Gary Herbert's comment to us, is the openness to say you may be right.
Yeah, absolutely right.
You might be right.
Right.
So I do want us to continue to think about how do we get past the yelling and the screaming and the demonizing of people who don't think the same as we do politically. So look, speaking of political differences, I want our listeners to make sure that they tune in to KSL News Radio tomorrow. It's 11 a.m. It's during our show. It's a special edition of Inside Sources Unites. Utah Unites, America 250. It'll be brought to you by America First Credit Union and the state of Utah. And we're going to have Doug Wright, who's going to host a town hall meeting focused on what we have in common and how we can bridge the political differences that divide us. So we've got some prominent political names, both sides of the aisle. It's a special hour. It's commercial free, and you're only going to hear it here on KSL News Radio tomorrow at 11 a.m.
It's going to be the last hour of our show tomorrow.
It will.
It's going to be hosted by the former host that had this hour
That's
years
right.
ago, Doug Wright. Who,
Doug Wright.
He joined us just a couple days ago to talk about the fire in Eureka.
Yeah, that's right.
Home there.
That's right. Okay, I do have a few fun facts of the day. So today, it's June 30th. So this is an interesting fun fact to me. This was in 1702. A woman named Elizabeth Timothy was born. So she was a colonial immigrant. She became the first female newspaper editor and publisher in America after the death of her father. So she assumed his role in printing the South Carolina Gazette under contract with Benjamin Franklin.
1702.
This is when she was born.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. She was
Yeah.
born, I mean, a long time ago, and then she became an editor probably, obviously, in the early 1700s.
Yeah.
You know, you wonder
Isn't that so interesting?
what was going on then
Yeah.
with the printing and everything.
So in 1899, I want to point this one out. Margaret Bird Rawson was born. She identified and treated reading disorders, including dyslexia. So that would have been in the early-ish 1900s.
Yeah.
So this one is not a fun fact. This is a very sad fact. So it was on this day in 1934 that Adolf Hitler ordered the assassination of hundreds of members of his own political party. It was called the Night of the Long Knives. It was anybody who disagreed with them, people who were dissenting, people who did
I don't
not
remember that.
People,
It
it was
his own political party.
getting rid of competition from within his own party, and he did it by having them assassinated. Really, really awful. Hundreds. Yeah, it was really bad. There were also a couple of Supreme Court decisions, and I wanted to mention one before we get to the other two. So we talked about the process of getting an amendment through, a constitutional amendment, right? It's passed by 2/3, has to be ratified by 3/4 of the states. The number's 38. Well, it was on this day in 1982 that the ERA failed. The Equal Rights Amendment failed because it fell three states short of ratification. So it had 35 states that ratified it, but they needed 38.
And it seems like every once in a while we talk about re-establishing that and getting some of those states to get back on board and doing something about it, but it just
and
never
people
happens.
are saying, look, it just at this point you've got to redo it. I think largely is the consensus.
Right.
But there were two Supreme Court decisions and then one other relevant Supreme Court date. So it was on this day in 1971 that the U.S. Supreme Court ruled 6-3 that the government could not prevent the New York Times or the Washington Post from publishing the Pentagon Papers.
Yeah, they had decided that was of such public interest that there were any privacy interests or government secrecy or national security interests were outweighed by the right of the public. And that's a significant First Amendment opinion that the U.S. Supreme Court heard and held in 1971, over 50 years ago.
It was also on this day in 2014 that Burwell versus Hobby Lobby was decided in a 5-4 vote.
Oh, you caught me on that one. I think it has to do with time off for religious purposes.
I think being able to close on Sunday.
Oh, that's right. Yes. Same thing.
Okay, so we're going to have to look that one up.
Yeah, Burwell versus Hobby Lobby.
And it was on this day in 2022 that Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was sworn into the U.S. Supreme
I thought
Court.
you were going to say the year she was born. Like she's
No.
not that young. So she's only been on the court for 4 years.
4 years.
Well, she certainly had an active role in the court during those 4 years, and this last
She
session
has.
has been no exception at all. I think she probably descended on about as many opinions as anybody. Ketanji Brown Jackson is going to go down in history as sort of the next Ruth Bader Ginsburg, I think. But the Supreme Court has finished its tour. It's finished its year, and we can talk back and forth about the good and the bad, whether the Supreme Court actually gave itself more power this year. It certainly gave the office of the president more power. Not necessarily Donald Trump, but he happens to be the president right now. But and what was interesting is a lot of these opinions this year didn't deal with laws that some legislature had passed or that some state had gone through or the federal legislature. It dealt with a lot of these executive orders, and we haven't seen executive orders historically. We haven't had a president who's been as active in executive orders, but so many of these opinions were the result of executive orders having worked their way up through the court system. And a lot of times the lower courts, the trial courts, typically federal courts, have struck down some of these executive orders, and then they work their way up. They work up to the Court of Appeals, and it goes back and forth. We had one case, the case yesterday involving the Fourth Amendment, the search of the cell phone data. The trial court said, hey, that's a search. The Court of Appeals said, you don't have a right to privacy to your cell phone data. It's not a search. And then it gets to the Supreme Court. They go, yeah, it's a search, and the Fourth Amendment applies. I mean, 3 different sets of courts with the most brilliant men and women on the planet, and they come to different conclusions about something that the Fourth Amendment wasn't enacted yesterday. We're still trying to redefine it. And somebody talked earlier about, boy, is this birthright citizenship going to change the 14th Amendment? No, but we can continue to look at the 14th Amendment. We can continue to look at the 4th Amendment. We can continue to look at the First Amendment when we talk about voting rights and things like that, and say, let's take a second look at how does it apply today? What are we doing today? And I absolutely appreciate what one of our guests, was it Carlos Trujillo, said earlier about the rule of law. And we do rely on the rule of law, and that's important. And I wish our Supreme Court would stick with the rule of law, sometimes a little bit better. But I also understand